Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting of Tuesday, January 16th to order. First, I will begin with the land acknowledgement statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Okay, I'll call this to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda, moved by the mayor?
Well, actually, Madam Chair, what I was going to suggest, if it works for the committee, is to add a 7D regarding the pool, just because of the timelines that of our budget meetings. But that's what I was going to suggest.
Yes, we don't need a motion to add that, eh? It's just yeah, we do. So moved by the mayor to add 7D, seconded by deputy mayor. All in favor? It's added. Thank you. Okay, motion now to approve the meeting agenda. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Keel. All in favor? Approved. Parks and Recreation Committee minutes were circulated from the December 19th meeting. Could I have a motion to approve? Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. All in favor? Approved. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. New business. We have Jordan DeRoche here, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Jordan.
All right, thank you and good evening. So this report is for information purposes only. The Parks and Recreation Department procured the services to consult for a recreation master plan in 2023. And as a Parks and Recreation master plan, it is a strategic process that will identify recommendations as a guiding document, which will serve as a roadmap for us in the Recreation Department. We hope to have this plan and guide the department for the next 10 years. The project has been broken into 3 phases, which will be discussed by the consultants, and we did complete phase 1 in 2023. So Kim Goodman and Kevin Lee from KA Community Consulting will be joining us virtually to present their findings on phase 1 of the project. So welcome, Kim and Kevin. The floor is yours.
This evening, of course, is on our key findings. So all of that data and information that we've been able to gather over the last 4 months. Of course, as Jordan alluded to, a Parks and Recreation Master Plan really is a guiding policy document. It's intended to reflect the current state. So what do we know about the City of Pembroke, the services and amenities that it provides, and provides a framework for action that can be implemented on the 10-year horizon. These actions will, of course, reflect and respond to your community's needs and interests, but it also recognizes, of course, the constraints and financial resources and human resources that you have available to you. This project is scheduled to take place over roughly 12 months. And as Jordan alluded to, we kicked off in August of 2024 with our kickoff meeting. The 3 phases are as follows. So our first phase is really the information gathering phase of the project, where we've kicked off the project and we've spent the bulk of our time engaging with the community, doing our research, and culminating in our presentation today. We do have a written report that will land on Jordan's desk any day now. Moving into phase 2 is when we start to come up with those preliminary actionable items. So how do we take the challenges and opportunities that we see and begin to prioritize those and align them with other strategic guiding documents that exist within the City of Pembroke? Moving into phase 3, this is when we firm up those recommendations. We provide a timeline for implementation and will recommend a financial strategy that will support implementation of the actions that we will be recommending. Now, we're a little bit behind. We extended phase 1 somewhat to allow for additional time to engage the community. There was a lot of interest in participating in one-on-one discussions and in focus group sessions. And so we wanted to make sure that we allowed the City of Pembroke to have its voice heard. Nonetheless, we will be caught up and expect to present the final Parks and Recreation Master Plan at the end of August in 2024. I'm going to let Kevin provide a little bit more detail now about the activities that we undertook through our phase 1 initiatives.
Thank you, Kim. Can everybody hear me okay? I think so. Just wanted to start with a quick thank you as well for the opportunity to work with Jordan and all the staff, as well as Mayor and Council and the Pembroke community. As Kim's described, we've completed a significant literature review, including many reports, plans, various studies, community and safety well-being plan, reviewed numerous agreements, gathered information on what's happening nationally at the provincial, regional, and most importantly at the local level. As far as the slide decks, I guess maybe we're not. I'll let you know when to maybe move on to the next slide. Just a little bit ahead there on this one, but just in a few moments. And certainly, we've spent significant time, completing facility assessments and assessing the parks and open space inventories as well. And today, we will present the key findings from our information gathering phase. And so, yeah, that slide's perfect. As Kim described earlier, the community engagement was a high priority to all of us as we began the process, and we're very pleased with the results to date. We've completed upwards of 15 one-on-one interviews, which provided valuable insight into the process, and we've had really good learning conversations with many key contacts within the city, and the community has truly been excited and engaged and truly cares about its community. We can see this in the turnout to our focus group sessions, many key stakeholders engaged in the discussions, as well as the significant response to the community survey. So if we can go to the next slide as well, we're just going to summarize some of the key findings. And this gathering information and community engagement has led to many key findings, which we will discuss in the next few minutes. These findings include a summary of the community profile, the SWOT analysis, trends and issues, as well as parks, facilities, and programming key issues. I'll turn it over again to Kim to speak about the community profile.
Thanks, Kevin. So again, there should be nothing startling on this particular slide. It is just a demographic profile of the City of Pembroke. There are a couple of interesting things that we want to note here. In particular, you can see in terms of the population bars, there's two key things here. And of course, first and foremost, is the general age of the population in the City of Pembroke. So we know typically in Eastern Ontario that most pockets and a lot of communities have populations that are seniors or soon to be seniors. In the City of Pembroke, when we consider those that are 50 and above, so again, those seniors and soon to be seniors, it makes up a whopping 40% of your population. So in terms of the recommendations moving forward, we will certainly bear that in mind in terms of planning and design. But you can certainly see that there is another wave coming, and that's that demographic that's in that 25 to 35-year-old range. So that will, of course, influence programming on that 10-year horizon. At the same time, we want to recognize that this isn't true of necessarily every community, that in Petawawa, for example, the average age is about 10 years younger than the average age in the City of Pembroke. And what that leads us to look at is opportunities with it to take a bit of a regional approach as far as that goes. Of course, we know growth has been steadily and consistent. There was 1 year where the population was down a little bit, but we are looking ahead to a total population of about 15,500 people when we hit the 2026 census. Moving ahead to the SWOT, or our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, there was a myriad of information that we looked at, and so much of it is complementary to the city of Pembroke as a whole, right? Huge kudos to the team within the Parks and Recreation Department. That was certainly one of the highlighted strengths within Parks and Recreation Services. And of course, the amazing facilities and infrastructure that do exist within the city, including trails, parks, open spaces, and particularly the waterfront. There are a few weaknesses and threats, and I'm sure the items that you're seeing here come as no surprise. They tend to allude to challenges in terms of long-term financial planning for life cycle and renewal of infrastructure and assets, and of course in cost recovery. But again, when we look across the board, we do see a lot of opportunity to address some of those challenges and threats. So for example, we recognize through our environmental scan and looking at comparable municipalities that Pembroke's rates and fees are just a little behind some of the other municipalities that we looked at. So that does lead to an opportunity to increase those fees slightly, which lends to cost recovery, but also an opportunity to contribute to the reserves which are so needed at this particular time. Moving ahead, we do see some reference again to staff in terms of those threats as well. We do recognize, of course, that Jordan and his team give a lot to the community. And every time they're asked, they are very keen and eager to respond to make sure that there's a lot of opportunity for visitors and residents within the city of Pembroke. But we also recognize that that creep that happens year by year and little by little puts increasing demand on staff. They strive for excellence in terms of maintenance and operations, and potential staff burnout and lack of long-term succession planning could pose a potential risk or threat in this area. I just want to make sure now that I'm hitting all the high points because there is a lot of information in here. Of course, opportunities with the adoption of technology, to look at programming opportunities, and of course, trails development. But we're going to shift now to some of those key trends and issues, and I'm going to pass it back to Kevin to start us off in that area.
Thank you, Kim. Without question, there are significant trends and key issues impacting Parks and Recreation Services throughout the sector. We've explored this in great detail in our literature review, at the national, provincial, and local levels, as we've described earlier. We've captured them here in 5 pillars around trends, and they include service provision, health and well-being, climate and the environment, asset management, and community profile. So we're going to just briefly touch on each one of these key trends. And so the first pillar here is what we've classified as service provision. So we could advance the slide to the next one. Good. And just to address a few of these, within this specific pillar, there are many key issues to explore, including human resources, funding, cost recovery, and partnerships, some of the things that Kim has introduced. Providing adequate staffing levels across the recreation service becomes a significant recreation management issue in order to manage aging recreation facilities and running quality recreation programs. An example of that, as you're familiar with, is the challenge of finding qualified lifeguards, operations staff with proper skill sets, qualifications, et cetera, and really trying to create a model where we're following best practice. Partnerships are another key issue that have been presented and discussed, and certainly through our analysis, significant conversations have come up around regional partnerships. Public-private partnerships were also discussed, although not as significantly as the regional partnership approach. And I know that has been something that has been discussed at this table. Funding and cost recovery are significant trends as well, with potential for increasing fees, with a plan for future reserves for capital investment in recreation assets. The next slide here on health and well-being. Certainly, one of the trends that we've been able to explore is at-risk behaviors were clearly identified as a trend in the community through the information gathering phase. In particular, this came up a number of times in our youth and student focus groups as an area of concern. Physical activity levels and social isolation are also key issues that were discussed. And certainly the role that recreation can play is something that is worthwhile in exploring. So I'll turn it back to Kim now to address the remaining trends.
Certainly. Thanks, Kevin. Moving on to climate and the environment. Of course, given last season, 2023 was a bit of a doozy in some ways, and we had to live firsthand some of those impacts that come from climate change and extreme weather events that result from that. I am certain that there were shutdowns on fields owing to air quality right early on in the spring. And this, of course, is a real opportunity. People are looking to their local government to lead by example. Green, energy efficient builds, looking at park designs that are intended to adapt with climate. This means looking at what tree species you're putting in, maybe a red maple instead of a sugar maple to account for that 1 degree difference over the lifespan of that tree, looking at opportunities to install local native species and flower beds. They're looking for leadership in terms of protection and stewardship of those natural spaces and supporting access to nature. So you may be aware of the term nature deficit disorder and the disconnect that sometimes happens. We see a lot of children and youth gravitating towards screens. And so it's important to look at upstream solutions like ensuring equal, affordable, and accessible access to those green spaces that sort of counterbalance some of that screen time. And of course, asset management, our friends, those assets. And of course, we know in following recent budget conversations that have been happening within the city of Pembroke that this is certainly at the forefront for many of you. Of course, asset management legislation has forced municipalities across the province to look more closely at life cycle planning for their infrastructure and of course, renewal as well. So Pembroke is certainly not alone in having to determine the best path forward, taking into consideration older buildings that may not have been adequately maintained over their lifespan. Of course, we look back to the days of Ontario when you get an arena and you get an arena and you get an arena, and there was money to be handed out everywhere. Yet the challenge lies in the fact that there was no money that came after that to make sure that these facilities continued to meet code for accessibility, for emergency purposes and whatnot. We also recognize that there's a lack in consistent funding in terms of grant opportunities provided by foundations, provincial and federal government, and that transfer payments from other levels of government are also somewhat inconsistent. So it makes it challenging year over year to budget accordingly for these. We are looking for resources and opportunities for better cost recovery in terms of operating these facilities. And we're also seeing a bit of a shift in terms of that one-stop, moving from very multiple facilities to a central one-stop shop, where there's opportunities for youth and seniors, programming, indoor space, something that is very multi-generational and multi-purpose. That came up time and time again, be it a multi-purpose complex, a sports dome, and many iterations of that in terms of our conversations. Again, circling back to community profile, we did think again, and we'll point it out again, of course, is the aging population that exists within the city of Pembroke. And it's a real opportunity to look ahead. We know improvements that we make in our facilities and parks to benefit seniors do in fact benefit the entire community. So when we look at door openers in buildings, and again, some of this stuff is legislated under AODA, but it makes it easier for a mom with a stroller, for example, or a dad who's got his hands full with swim bags and kids or whatever that looks like. The other thing that we saw that was particularly interesting in the community, and our findings seem to show that there really is a heightened interest and awareness in terms of diversity, access, and inclusion. We recognize that there are new Canadians coming into the city of Pembroke, whether they're an exchange student at a local high school, temporary residents because they're attending Algonquin College, or they're moving to the city more permanently. We also understand that the Multicultural Festival is wildly successful within the city, and you've had incredible feedback. And it leads, coupled with the data that we've collected, it really does demonstrate that there is a bit of a demand for an increase in culture-based programming, and to showcase that diversity that exists within the city and to celebrate it. There is also an opportunity that we wanted to bring to your attention in terms of taking real action with respect to truth and reconciliation. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario published a document a few years ago, and it identifies 9 calls to action that are directly related to sport and recreation. We see this as an opportunity for Pembroke to lead the way in terms of demonstrating real action. There are a number of other trends that didn't make our sort of top 5, but that are very much on our radar, as they should continue to be monitored over that 10-year horizon, because they may become more or less impactful over that time period. This, of course, is related to risk management, right? As our society becomes more litigious and insurance costs increase, we want to be very cognizant and aware of the impact that has on our planning. We recognize that there is, in fact, a growing childcare crisis, and that recreation and recreation services are well provided to be a part of the solution. And of course, as travel and tourism sort of reinvigorates itself post-COVID, people are looking for those unique experiential opportunities that they get in natural spaces. And again, it's one of Pembroke's strengths and a real opportunity for them. I'm going to kick it back over to Kevin now, and he's going to start our assessment of parks, trails, and open spaces.
Thanks, Kim. Almost all the participants, I think 96%, indicate that they visit parks, trails, and open spaces, and half are doing more once or more per week, excuse me. I think, again, these are findings that I think we're familiar with, and many of you have spoken to as well. The most popular spaces, Pembroke Waterfront, 83% of our respondents, Riverside Park, 76%, Algonquin Trail, 53%. And so a lot of the findings that we were able to uncover through the survey really talked about their use of trails, playgrounds, and the marina as the most accessed facilities. And the top priorities for investment over the next 10 years included the waterfront as a priority, recognizing maintenance, trail development, and more services, washrooms, marina facilities, and being able to connect many of the trails and the waterfront areas to the downtown core and to other parts of the city was obviously a major finding that came up in pretty well every one of our conversations. The fact that waterfront is a gem, people recognize that, and then how can we better connect all of those different elements to better usage and promoting the downtown and tourism as well. Our next slide is on the indoor rec facilities, which again, we have spent significant time talking about tonight, so I won't address that too much more based on the time that we've provided here. But certainly, PMC and Kinsman have been the most popular of our survey participants, 80% of them using those facilities, which is a significant number. And of course, the most popular, the 55 plus center being the most popular with the older adults. And so I will just turn it back to Kim to summarize the programs and other significant findings.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. Well, let me tell you, Pembroke loves to play. almost 80% of survey respondents indicate that they do participate in recreation and leisure programming within the city of Pembroke. Of course, this tends to focus around the ice surfaces, so skating and hockey, but also around the aquatic facilities, so swimming being the second most popular. We do know that to encourage participation rates or to help them increase, the things that we want to address, of course, are better communications of these opportunities. We want to make sure that there is different programs offered at different times so we can capture different audiences and whatnot. Again, we did talk a little bit about the multicultural festival, but of course, festivals and celebrations and events in Pembroke really are well received and very well attended as a whole. So Santa Claus, Canada Day, you name it, people are coming out. Again, what we're going to take from this on our side in terms of learning and data and understanding is how can we help facilitate balance with all of that within the city of Pembroke, right? So what is the draw on staff? What are opportunities for cost recovery? Where does it make sense to grow programs and events, and where does it make sense maybe to claw back a little bit? Again, all with the goal of helping find that balance over that 10-year horizon. A couple other things that we found along the way that we just wanted to bring to your attention, of course, include most people, again, based on survey results, are getting their information on social media platforms. Nonetheless, there is a huge demographic, thinking particularly of your older adults within the community, that do still largely rely on print materials. And one of the challenges that they were experiencing is that that sometimes wasn't provided with enough advance for them to have the opportunity to adequately engage. Non-residence fees came up, and of course, we do know that we're going to be looking at those shared service agreements and whatnot, but again, that was referenced. We also know that generally findings seem to indicate that parks and recreation services should be funded by a balance between taxes and of course user fees. Looking ahead, when we asked for indication in terms of how people would be willing to support parks and recreation services and investment moving ahead, findings seem to indicate that residents are prepared to volunteer their time both to support program implementation and delivery as well as events, that they're willing to accept an increase in fees where it makes sense and contribute to a capital campaign. So I'm just going to kick it back to Kevin one last time so he can discuss next steps and close us off.
Thanks, Kim. And again, we appreciate your time and patience as we pour through the content here this evening. Our next steps are to submit the background report to Jordan. We will then move on to development of opportunities, draft recommendations, which will engage the community in further discussions on these plans and recommendations. And so with that said, we're pleased to answer any questions or concerns that you might have, and our contact information here as well if you'd like to reach us directly. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kim and Kevin. I'll ask committee now if there is any questions or comments. Councillor Purcell and then Deputy Mayor.
Just a comment in regards to maybe working groups or community engagement, especially when it comes to fundraising, funding opportunities, community engagement, the recommendations coming out of the master plan, short and long-term planning for maintenance and replacement of facilities, including the viability of the P3, as well as event planning and execution. I think we need to move forward in terms of a working group. I think it'd be very valuable to move forward sooner than later in regards to not just the pool, but in terms of recreation as a whole. So I think I'm looking for kind of a little bit of direction, because I'm willing to move right now that we strike down the existing pool committee and that we move to implement a Pembroke and Community Recreation Improvement Working Group that will look at those fundraising and funding opportunities, look at community engagement, recreation master plan recommendations, as well as the short and long-term planning for maintenance and replacement of our recreation facilities, the viability of the P3 partnerships, and also to help with event planning and execution. The reason I do this is because I'm looking at the presentation, and we do have some challenges in regards to staff time, the ability to staff to execute. We heard firsthand from our meeting last night, in terms of a public meeting, that there are individuals within our community that are willing to step up and move things forward when it comes to recreation in our community. And I think it's really, really important that we consider standing up this particular committee sooner than later. So the motion on the floor is to strike up a Pembroke and Community Recreation Improvement working group, not advisory committee, a working group. Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Plummer,
I would second for further discussion.
thank you, go ahead.
And so I don't disagree with Councillor Purcell. I think it's important that we get something going. I think there needs some terms, references, and understanding. Like I'm not against it. I need a little more flushed out before I'd vote. But I think this is something certainly maybe we can work on with staff and get some ideas on what the terms and references are, and then bring it back. And certainly I would support it at an upcoming meeting. But I just, at this point, I don't think I'd be prepared to vote on something I haven't really kind of seen a little bit more information, but I like where it's going. So that's why I second it. But I think it should come back. It should be kicked to staff and then bring it back. So if someone would, not to get rid of your motion, but certainly table it for a staff to bring back a report in a timely manner, not months down the road. I think we're talking like hopefully, in the next month or so to, that this doesn't happen in the summertime, it happens sooner than later. But for that, I would, I guess, motion to table for staff to bring back a working group. What basis of your motion to bring back to the table at a future meeting?
Councillor Keel? Second and table. Further discussion? No? From the chair, I tend to agree with Councillor Plummer. I like the idea, but I think we need to sort of filter it out and find out who we want on it, what type of committee. Is it an advisory committee? Is it, anything of that nature?
Working group.
A working group, okay. Well, anyway, good. So I'm going to call the question to table. All in favor? Okay, so that is tabled and direction is given. Okay. Further questions for Kim or Kevin? Deputy Mayor.
Hello, Kim and Kevin. Thank you for your great preliminary report. And I'm really glad to see it's opportune time to we delayed this for 2 or 3 years because of COVID, and we finally were able to implement this review of our assets and recreation and programming. And it's really great to see in a timely manner when we're considering expression of interest for a P3 multi-user recreation complex that the community sees the need for that also. One-stop shopping, if we can pull it off, right? It's going to be it would have to be a regional complex supported by everyone within a radius of 50 miles to 70. Like any other community. I know that Georgina Township they did a recreation master plan a number of years ago, and they're opening their complex this month with 2 gyms and a 25-meter pool, therapeutic pool, and a walking path, a track, and a library for $50.2 million. And that was a result of an active living master plan where the community got together and figured out what they wanted and they implemented it. And also the LEED certified and the green energy efficiency, it's good to see, and the truth and reconciliation, because I know the province, whenever you go seeking funding, the province is number 1 on that, on truth and reconciliation. I know that Renfrew has a cultural center down there, run by one of the local Aboriginal groups, and it's very important that we have that in the community. So it's good to see, and accessibility also. the community garden that the deputy mayor and I spearheaded a number of years ago. We have 24 plots on the bottom of a hill at the former mother house, but we also have 5 garden beds up top that are accessible for the residents to care for. So that's important, and I think we're on the right track, and I look forward to the future recommendations. Thank you.
If I could speak from the chair, I want to thank you, Kim and Kevin, for the hard work you've put into this, Jordan as well. It's very timely. We are dealing with a very large community outcry over our pool right now, so it's nice to see that, you know, I mean, I keep saying that historically, recreation was always a soft service and the first thing to get cut in budgets. So it's nice to see this plan coming forward, and it's really nice to see the community saying, we want to see this prioritized in our community. And so we just have to follow through now and make sure that we budget accordingly, you know, once your recommendations come forward, and thank you very much. So seeing no more comments or questions, okay, thank you very much. Mr. Jackno has just joined us, but he can, I guess. Do you have anything to say, Councillor Jackno? They just finished the presentation for the master plan, so recreation.
No, I caught the end of it, but I've been studying it. I concur with what council's comments are. I'm sorry I couldn't join you earlier. It's just traffic. I'm out of the community. But anyway, thank you. I'm here now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Okay, next, CIP request for 185 Pembroke Street East. Ms. Sutherland. Good night, Jordan.
Okay, so the Community Improvement Panel recommends that $3,550.06 is granted to Ashley Ward, tenant of 185 Pembroke Street East, for the Community Improvement Plan's Facade Improvement Grant. So earlier this month, we received an application from Ashley Ward, who owns Ash's Barcade and is the tenant of 185 Pembroke Street East. It was signed off by the building owner as is required under the program. The application is for the facade improvement grant, and they plan to install a new sign for their business, as well as to add strip lighting to the top and ground level awnings to make the building and the area brighter as well as safer. This grant applies to properties outside the Pembroke Business Improvement Area boundaries, and it is intended for the improvement to the front or exterior facades that front onto a public street. So this application meets the requirements of this grant program. According to the plan requirements, there are to be no outstanding work orders or taxes against the property. The fire department and the building departments both reported no outstanding work orders, and the Treasury Department reported no outstanding taxes. According to the low quote provided, the improvements will cost $7,100.11. So based on the guidelines, 50% of that can be funded up to a maximum of $5,000. Therefore, this application is eligible for $3,550.06.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Councillor Keel.
The report we just received was fantastic. I'll just move that we accept the recommendation.
Okay, moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Further comments? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Approved. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. And next, surplus land inventory.
Thank you. So committee direction is required on which lands to include in a City of Pembroke surplus land inventory. So in 2023, committee tasked the economic development staff with identifying city-owned lands that could be included in a surplus land inventory to be available for sale for development. Following a bunch of different research, staff identified 22 parcels of land to be considered. Then those lands were brought to the directors of operations, parks and recreation, and planning to provide comment on each parcel from each of those respective areas. Of the 22, 4 parcels have been identified as having moderate to good saleability potential. Staff still needs to do some additional work to identify other types of lands that could be included, such as unopened road allowances. So in terms of financial implications, the lands included in the inventory would need to be appraised prior to selling, so this cost will be dependent on the number of lands included. So in order to get the direction on the lands, I have included a presentation that outlines the 22 properties and the comments from the directors. So we'll start with the Alfred Street Parkette, which is on the corner of Alfred and Cecilia Streets. Main comments to note here is that the Parks and Rec Department says that consideration should be held off until the Parks and Rec Master Plan is complete. Planning did note that it would have to be rezoned, and there would be a minor variance required, but a house could be built on this property. So the potential is possible to sell in the future. The next property is on Metcalf Street, which is across from the Operations Department. This is presently maintained by the Parks and Rec Department, and there is a sign monument on the site. Parks and Rec, however, had no concern to sell this. Planning did note that there would be an issue with a driveway location, so it could be sold, but to sort of a very, if like a neighboring property wanted to purchase it to add it to their property, because you can't add a driveway on that corner. So that potential can sell with a limited appropriate buyer. The next set of lands are the lands behind the Operations Department facility on River Road. Operations noted that this area includes the path from Pansy Patch Park to Mary Street. It includes the vehicle entrance to Pansy Patch. It includes a cell tower behind Operations, and there's storm and drainage for Operations, and the park are required there. So they need it. Parks and Rec said to not sell, Planning said to not sell, so this would be low saleability. The next property is on Garden Street near Cecilia and Duville. These are currently passive parklands. Operations noted that it could be sold for residential development. The services are available on the street, but only from the garden side. There's no sanitary off Cecilia. Parks and Rec again noted that consideration should be held off until the master plan is complete, as it could be developed as part of that plan. And planning noted that it would need to be rezoned. So this potential is possible to sell in the future. The next land is Harvey Fraser Nature Park. These are passive parklands. Operations noted there is no sanitary or sewer on Cecilia Street. However, there is on Elizabeth Street. Parks and Rec noted that it would not want to sell this property, and planning also noted that it would need to be rezoned. So this potential is noted as low saleability. The next property is Duville Drive near Cedar Brae Drive. Operations noted that this land is required for drainage and would not like to sell this property, and there were no comments from the other two departments, so this is noted as low saleability. The next set of lands are the excess lands at the Pembroke Area Community Center. Operations noted that this would not be advisable as the lands allow for expansion in the future. Parks and Rec also noted it would not want to sell, and there was no comment from planning. So this potential is low saleability. 411 Pembroke Street West, so that's the entrance to the PMC. Operations noted that this should be kept for the expansion of the 415 Pembroke Street West parking lot, as well as there are environmental concerns on the property, so not to sell. And then there were no comment from the other departments, so its potential was low saleability. The next property, Dorn Street near Darcy Street. It is noted that there are flooding concerns from the Indian River at this land. A portion of this property, so if you look at the shape of the blue, the small, long rectangle on the left-hand side has already been sold. And then that buyer was in discussions with planning about maybe taking the rest of the property. However, prior to any development, the city would have to ensure that flooding issues are addressed, or there would be whatever, legal clauses that would need to be noted because of the potential flooding. So this was also noted as low saleability. The next parcel is at the end of Moffett Street. Operations noted that there is no good access and there is potential for slope embankment failures, so recommended not selling. Planning also noted that most of the land is zoned hazard, so this one has low saleability. 585 Moffett Street, just down the street from that last one. Operations noted that there's storm outfall on this property, so it must be retained, so this property has no saleability. And I'll just note that I included all of them just in case there were properties that you might be aware of. And so then this way you see all the comments to understand why it may or may not have potential for sale. Draper Street off McGee Street. Operations know there's no appropriate access to this street and to this property and no effective way to service the property. It also has species at risk on site. And planning noted that most of it is zoned hazard, so it would be low saleability. Dominion Street, at the end of McGee Street, there are slope issues on this piece of property and species at risk as well. And there's also city drainage and city sanitary on the site. And again, most of it is zoned hazard, so this is low saleability. James Street, also at the end of McGee Street. So you're going to see similar issues with these parcels here. Slope issues, species at risk, city drainage, city sanitary on site, and zoned hazard. So again, low saleability. The next is the end of Thompson Street off Eganville Road. Operations noted that the city doesn't need it. I'm not sure if it's practical to develop, but could be. Planning did note that so it's presently zoned hazard and would require extensive studies in order to permit a rezoning and the official plan amendment for development of a residential use. But it could be done, so we graded this one a moderate saleability. So Forest Road near the Boundary Road intersection. It's noted that there is no sanitary or water servicing to this site, and operations has plans for this site already, so we list it as no saleability. And then the next parcels are the four little ones that you see at the bottom of that same lot. So again, the same issue with no sanitary or water servicing to them, and then it could have conflicting use with the city intention for the neighboring property, so it'd be low saleability for these parcels. And then finally is the property at Forest Road and the Algonquin Trail. So this is the site of the Algonquin Trail trailhead and touchdown area. So there are already plans for this property, so no saleability here.
Well, thank you for that thorough report. Councillor Plummer?
So understanding that there's multiple properties, there's some that have no saleability that the city wants to maintain, and there's also properties that have low. So just because they're low saleability doesn't mean they can't be sold or could not be developed because the city doesn't have a plan for it, doesn't mean a developer can't foresee something and run, as comments have come up, there's no storm sewer, there's no sanitary. Well, those things can be run in the future. We do it all the time with running for new developments. So I would like to see certainly anything that's even low saleability that the city doesn't necessarily have a use for, but necessarily doesn't see why someone would want it. I still think it's important to get an appraisal. So if someone does have the idea, they can still go into talks. Just at the idea here, I'm just looking, the last one I had, Thompson Street. Well, it says moderate saleability. There's a bunch of studies need to be performed. But if someone looks at the piece of property and says, you know what, I can put X amount of buildings or homes or something in that end, just because it's not ready to go today doesn't mean it wouldn't be ready to go in a future date. So I think it's important that we still do appraisals on all the properties that are even low saleability. Obviously, we just exclude the no saleability because we're retaining those. And then we post those on our site and let people make presentations to council or applications to purchase those properties in the future and with a development plan. Obviously, we shouldn't be selling land just for future hold and with no plan. As many things do come back to council, they do normally have a time limit. So you're going to develop this in X amount of days or years. If not, the city buys it back for what you paid for it, and we continue on. So that would be my motion, that we proceed to appraise all property that have any saleability.
Mayor Jerva?
I would second it if I could speak to the motion. I want to thank staff to begin with in terms of the hard work and identifying the various lands. I know that at the beginning of the term, what I was looking at was in particular the Garden Street one, because it always made me wonder. I recognize when you put in a subdivision in a particular area that it's either parkland dedication or it was land. At that particular site, and I'm not going to do this for each and all of the properties, but that's the one that I started with because normally there's a garbage can and there's a picnic table at best, but it requires staff in terms of looking at the overall costs and so forth, requiring staff to drive around to different locations with their lawnmowers and other machinery to empty out garbage bins, and they're cutting grass at various locations and they're driving all over the place to do this. And it's like, well, so how is this efficient? How does this make sense? And I recognize there's different individuals in the community that might say, well, you're taking away a parkette, as what I believe Ms. Sorio calls them. But we're in Pembroke where it doesn't take long, and you can be at any one of the more substantial parks that actually has equipment there and something there to as a destination draw. So I support what Councillor Plummer is saying. There's a number of them here that, such as Alfred Street, Metcalf Street, Garden Street. There's some that, yes, I question, but I understand staff were being thorough and they went through each and every one of them and identified what's going on the different ones. And I also understand in terms of your report that the work isn't done, that there's other properties such as unopened road allowances, and I suspect also inherent in that is probably what in Pembroke we call fire lanes. So anyways, so I support looking at that because it's part of getting, not, as Councillor Plummer says, not just putting lands in public hands without a plan. It's putting, getting it in public hands, increasing the tax base if they have a plan. And if they don't have a plan, well, either A, we don't sell them, or B, it comes back to us if they don't do it in a timely fashion. So I certainly support it because it's part of this, growing the assessment base, growing the tax base. So, thank you.
So Keel?
So I'm going to vote against just because I think, Councillor Plummer, I think you're a little broad. So one of the low saleability things that would be caught by your motion is the vehicle access to Pansy Patch Park. Another one would be Harvey Fraser Nature Park, which I hear what the mayor's saying, but I think that one's prominent enough that we would keep, but it's marked as low saleability. Another low saleability, the operations department has, this is Dewville, it says required for drainage, do not sell, but they said low saleability. So while I don't want to be here all night, like I think the mayor was saying, and going one by one, I also think your motion is much too broad, given how Ms. Sutherland has commented on some being low saleability, like I said, with Dewville, where operations is saying, no, don't sell it. So I'm just caught between your motion being too broad, but I don't know. I don't want to be here all night, but maybe we do need to take a, I don't know, even a quick-paced approach into scrolling through, and if anybody thinks it should be, then maybe a quick throw up the hand in a second. I don't know. I think your motion's too broad. That's my problem.
Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Keel. There's some of the properties I think that are just, important to maintain just because of the types of activities that actually happen on that property, such as the property behind the garage to go into Pansy Patch Park. I also don't understand in regards to the Parks and Rec consideration to be held off until the Recreation Master Plan for the parkette on Garden Street, because if you know that area, Harvey Fraser Park is just, kitty corner across Cecilia as well. And if you go further down Cecilia, then you're in the Kinsman area. So I just don't know the value. I live in that area, I don't see anybody using it, and it's just an opportunity that we can kind of look at that one sooner or later, and I don't think, you know, based on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and knowing some of the challenges that we have, I don't think that's gonna be something that we're gonna develop in the near future. And I'd rather see, again, the growth from development at this time.
Deputy Mayor, and then I'm going to make a decision about how we'll handle each item. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to see Harvey Fraser Park go and up for sale and appraised, and the other ones that Councillor Keel referenced, but, you know, sell some of them, get them appraised. So if we have to go by parcel, so be it, tonight or at another time, but sell what we can or appraise what we can and get the buildings on them and keep the rest that are suitable for the city.
Follow-up, Councillor Plummer?
Yes, I would withdraw my motion, and if we're going to go through quickly, because I do recognize there are some that are low saleability that are getting caught up in my motion. That may not be the intention. So I will withdraw at this point to pose a new motion that we go through each property listed currently and with an up or down vote for get an appraisal.
Thank you. And just my comment before we start to vote on the properties. When it says that it should be held off till the Recreation Master Plan, I think we should look at those closely because I know the Alfred and Cecilia Parkette is well used. So I want everyone to realize we still have to be a walkable city where people have rest stops with park benches and such. So, okay, so we'll begin.
Could I ask a question
Yes.
about one of the forced roads? Can I ask in open session what the plan is, or?
Yeah, I don't think it's
Okay.
not public knowledge. This is the potential site of the tree disposal facility for the city. And the unopened road allowance next to it is also in discussion for the transportation master plan.
Okay, so from the chair, I will start off with the first one, which is, I believe it's the Alfred Street. Just a second. I can't get used to this.
Sorry, Madam Chair, we need a seconder for that amended motion.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? I guess, yeah. Approved. Okay, so the first one is the Alfred and Cecilia Corner Parkette.
Would my comments be we just call the question yay, nay on
Okay,
each
so
one? We
yay.
put our hands up. If nay, then it's simple yes, no from council's position.
Okay, so Alfred Street Parkette, should we put it up for sale? Yay? Nay? Counselor Jackno is somewhere, and I don't know how he's voting, so. He's nay. Okay, so that one will not be sold. That would be retained. Metcalf Street across from Operations Department. Yay? Okay, that was an easy one. The lands behind the Operations Department facility. Yay? Oh, no, sorry. Nay? That's what I meant. Okay, next. Garden Street, near Cecilia Street in Dewville. Yay? Okay. This computer is fussy. Harvey Fraser Nature Park. Yay? Nay? Dewville Drive, Cedar Brae Drive. Yay? Nay? Nay? Pembroke and Area Community Center lands. Yay? Nay? Nay? 411 Pembroke Street West. Yay? Nay? Nay? Doran Street near Darcy Street. Yay? It's yay. End of Moffett Street. Yay? Nay. And Councillor Jackno? It's a nay. Nay on that. Thank you. 585 Moffat, yay? Nay. That's a nay. Draper Street, yay? That's a yay. Dominion Street, yay? Nay? It's a yay. James Street, that's the end of the street off McGee, yay? Nay? That's a yay. End of Thompson Street off Eganville Road, yay? That's a yay. Forest Road near Boundary Road intersection, yay? Nay. So that's a nay. And then those 4 smaller lots along Forest Road, yay? Nay. That's a nay. Forest Road at Algonquin Trail, yay? Nay. That's a nay. And that is it. Thank you very much. And finally, on our agenda is a discussion on the pool. Mayor, would you like to lead this off?
I can if that suits committee. So certainly we've had a number of different meetings, some solely for the purpose of talking about
Sorry, thank you, Heather. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, go ahead.
No problem. Solely for the talking about the pool. I indicated last night, and I would say again that in terms of commitment from at least one other municipality, based upon a conversation with their mayor as opposed to the entire council, which that wouldn't happen, that they are looking for a decision of this particular council before I would see writing a letter to that municipality to seek commitment. And I don't mean just commitment in terms of what we've seen to date from some municipalities in terms of letters saying that they're supportive, but actual financial commitment for the purpose of repairs to the pool. And so putting it on the agenda was a big step because we know that there's only one more meeting, a special finance meeting in admin for the purpose of budget, unless we call a different meeting or extend yet and have yet another additional finance and admin meeting for the purpose of discussing budget. And so certainly I know that, and I don't think I'm telling things out of school or whatever in terms of, I know that different council members have worked very diligently trying to look at budget lines and try and determine how to put forward a budget or at least see certain movement in order to be cognizant of the fact that we have a single taxpayer. And so I commend them for that. I know that staff have worked on looking at different lines, and I'm not necessarily thinking, unless this committee wants to start talking about that this evening in terms of where the dollar amounts come from, I was looking more of a higher level in terms of a motion that would see a commitment in terms of the repairs that we're aware of in terms of the envelope, if I can put it that way, as well as the HVAC system, which I understand from staff, the number what we're looking at is 1.4. And so I had staff put together a draft motion just for discussion purposes. I'm not wanting to put it out there as a motion because I'd rather want to see what this committee discusses and what it looks like. All I know is that I think it's, just as I think it's fruitless to go to the minister and ask for grant money when we aren't ready to do, as they put it, shovel ready, I think it's fruitless for myself to write a letter to let's call spade a spade, Township of Laurentian Valley, to seek monetary commitment when this council has yet to say this is the direction that we're going. So just, and this isn't, I'm not making this motion, I'm not looking for a seconder, but for the purpose of just throwing it out there, what I worked with staff about, but certainly I'm in the hands of this entire committee in terms of what the wording is. What we worked out was council directing staff to proceed with pool repairs at a tune of 1.4, sending letters to surrounding municipalities for funding support, and start coordination with this group that has been identified as Friends of the Pembroke Area Community Pool Group. And so, before I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, it's phrased this way in terms of letters to surrounding municipalities, because I think that we should be writing the letter to all municipalities, although I think that the greater inroads is with Township of Laurentian Valley in light of the recreation agreement and the funding that they already do provide that is welcomed to the city of Pembroke. But for what it's worth, the direction so that there can be letters going to other municipalities, not just the Township of Laurentian Valley, recognizing that the other municipalities, including Whitewater, are under tremendous pressure right now, even with their recreational facilities. So I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to speak to it, Madam Chair, and it's just to try and see if we can even nudge it forward one more step so that we can at least get certain things in place and basically call upon these neighboring municipalities to call a special council meeting, knowing that we're in time constraints trying to pass a budget so that we can go ahead and do things that are necessary, not just about recreation, but tendering various projects that need to be done this year. Thank you. That council directs staff to proceed with the pool repairs at a cost of 1.4 million, sending letters to surrounding municipalities for funding support, and start coordination with Friends of the Pembroke Area Community Pool Group. There's more stuff that I find is very directive as to what that group would be the work with that group, but I think that, and I again, this is what we had worked on, but I'm open to comments, suggestions, wordsmithing, and so forth, but it's to get us to a next step so that we can continue to move forward.
Okay, just through the chair, you know, it's really hard to have just candid conversations when we all have to be so politically correct and follow procedure, but we're going to try our best, because I really agree with the mayor that we need to talk about this tonight. And so I will make sure that we are speaking to the point and not getting off topic, because we are here tonight to decide what we want to do. You know, rehashing things that were said last night isn't necessary. We all know that the need is there. So really what I would like to do is I'll start with the deputy mayor, and I'd like to hear his opinion. We'll go around once, and then we'll maybe reconsider after we hear what everyone else is saying. I know I have my thoughts about the funding, but let's do that, okay? So we will start with the deputy mayor.
So my thoughts were expressed last night in my final closing statement of the public meeting. I'm in favor of the motion, getting the letters out, getting the conversation started, and having staff come back to the finance committee with one or two recommendations on how we can find the money. I know there's a fundraising group that wants to raise funds also. I would like to see the tender go out as soon as possible. And as far as the fundraising group, you know, the city would forward the money, and the fundraising group would set a goal, and that would be it. And then hopefully we get some funds from some other municipalities. But I'm in favor of the motion. It's very important to keep the pool open while we search for another facility. We always have this to circle back, as I said last night. Thank you.
Councillor Plummer?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm not against fixing the pool. Don't get me wrong. I made the motion originally to put a Butler building on when we first talked about this, and then move ahead with it. And then we got the report of the second structural analysis from the Minister of Labor. Basically, they're there to said the pool needs to be closed. It is a hazard. So that's why I made the second motion, to close the pool immediately, but maintain the water in the basin so that we can fix the pool, because we need to make a decision. We had to make a decision that night that said we have a risk to public safety. We need to close the pool, and then circle back and decide if we're going to fix this. I know originally we thought that, you know, we'll talk about the expression of interest first and then see where that goes and then decide on the pool. but obviously with the public, understanding the public outcry as well as, timelines, that if we do that, wait to the fall, we may not have a pool until another year from now. So I am in favor of the motion to move ahead with the pool repairs. I'm just, obviously, we need to talk about funds and where they're coming from, and I believe if we're gonna just make the motion tonight as a gesture to start the conversation, then certainly I'd support that, but I would be, I guess it's gonna be a longer conversation on where the actual money is gonna be coming from. Because we've been, we've had some emails, we've had some ideas, there's been some here, there, we have to make sure that, this council's already talked about, we're at 6%, or 5.95, we're getting up there. So to understand that if we're gonna fix the pool, what other contributions are being made by other municipalities? And if it's a commitment that we need to make tonight to get another municipality to the table, I'm prepared to make that and say, yes, we'll fix the pool, but surrounding partners need to come to the table. They need to put, money behind their words. So I will support the motion, understanding that it's not all coming from the backs of the taxpayer, that we'll be working as a community to fundraise or other contributors to help fund the repairs. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Plummer. Councillor Jackno, would you like to speak? Yes.
Good. I'd like to comment on Councillor Plummer's observations. I agree with that. I want to see the pool move forward. Obviously, there's a passion by the public to repair, to use, and we heard it from the medical staff as well. Doctors who were in attendance spoke how prominent that was in making their decision to come here. Part of many of our campaigns during the election were to bring more physicians here. So what better way to bring a physician here who may be an avid swimmer than to have a facility where that person can go and exercise and fulfill their role as a professional and also burn off some steam from their high-pressured profession. I believe that if we do go ahead, we have to have a date, a formalized date that says by such and such a date, we plan to go before the minister, whoever it is, with a plan, with a shovel-ready agreement by a certain date. Otherwise, we're going to be all over the map. We'll talk about it for a year or two. Next term of council, somebody else around. We want to have some forward thinking and hit the nail on the head. We have to have the support from the school boards. They've given us some observations. Well, we can't afford busing. Everything costs more. But we're talking about a child's life. We're talking about a swimming skill. We're talking about something that will keep that individual perhaps within the community. So that's necessary. We need the support from the hospital budget as well. People are going there for therapeutic use. We had a lady coming from Shawville. What is Shawville's responsibility to help? That's a resident from their community. And, I think in the letter that she sent us, she said she didn't mind to see taxes raised to keep the pool going, but she doesn't live here. That's ironic to say that, but she knows the value of what the pool means to her and to other residents in her position that have had knee or hip surgery. Again, boards of education, it's a regional pool, and it does support the region. We know that. Somebody from Shawville, they're driving here 3 times a week. So to me, that it's just not, it's not pie in the sky. People are using that. So I think we should have a drop dead date to say, okay, we're going to repair it. We're going to do this within such a period of time based on the dollars we have, based on the support we have, based on the fundraising we have. But by October 15, 2001, we are prepared to go in unison as a community group to look for funding to build this new facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackno. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. I echo the sentiments. I think the first thing that needs to be done is it needs to be in condition in terms of a proper engineering assessment. And I'm not talking about a structural assessment. I'm also talking about a full equipment, building system assessment, including the pool deck and the basin. I think, to put $1.4 million towards a canopy is a lot of dollars. We saw the flack in terms of a $10,000 pump in regards to, after we opened the pool and then we had a pump failure, we saw what that entailed. Imagine spending $1.4 million of hard-earned tax dollars just to find out that the basin is cracked, or there's significant other repairs that need to be in place. I can tell you one thing: we replaced that one pump. There's other pumps that are the original pumps, the original equipment that's still operating in that facility. I took a good tour, and what I would want to see in place is a true engineering assessment, not only the structure, but all the systems within that building. And at that time, I also would like to see a set value in terms of public donations that are going towards the operations of that pool. Hence the reason why I kind of, maybe jumped the gun, but, my previous motion in terms of having, a Pembroke and Community Recreation Improvement Working Group, we have bigger, we have to look at the bigger picture in regards to all recreation and not just the pool. But that being said, I'm willing to, if we can come up with a hard number in terms, because I know if we go ahead and say we're going to, go ahead and repair the pool, I'm pretty sure that some of those fundraising dollars that I think that people were anticipating and providing are going to dry up because they'll be used for other purposes. I'm hoping that's not the case, but we have to give them the opportunity to allow some time for some of those fundraising dollars to be acquired. And we have a good indication in terms of how much funding is actually going to be utilized from public donations. The other thing, and it's just poor timing in terms of having those discussions, but if we looked at the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, I haven't done the calculations, but I think it was 17% in terms of user fees. So I think we need to start looking at the operational costs, looking at the costs of the repairs and those kinds of things, and really looking at, is $5 appropriate for a swim? So that's another opportunity in terms of looking at those user fees. So I think, I think if we have a good estimate in terms of, and I think also as part of that engineering assessment, I don't want somebody just to say it's going to last 10 years or 20 years, and I even heard 60 years, in terms of a structural repair. It's a Butler building we're replacing and some HVAC. It's not going to last 60 years, I hate to tell you. So I want the engineer assessment in terms of how the life expectancy of the facility, taking everything into consideration, not just a structure. And I think that's demonstrating our due diligence as council members, is to make sure that A, we have the appropriate funding in place, where it's coming from, that we're not investing good money into bad. And I use the example in terms of putting a new muffler or exhaust system on your car when the engine's shot. So I don't want to get ourselves into that, because as you're well aware, we have a huge funding gap. And we have, a big commitment in terms of moving forward to maintenance of some of the aging infrastructure and facilities. And I think, I want a more holistic picture in terms of how we're going to get there. And I think if we keep on doing these things without the bigger picture in mind, we're going to end up with the same issues as what previous councils have done, in terms of not looking out for the best interests of the community in terms of the long run. And we need to start planning for that today. Otherwise, we're going to be in the same situation. Where are we getting those dollars from? We're going to deplete them from our reserves. Our reserves are dwindling. We need a plan. We need a plan of action. We need individuals that have fundraising capacity. We need that community engagement. We also need people that will be looking at the recreation master plan. We're doing it here in terms of not even selling property because it's in maybe looking at the recreation master plan. What's the rush? I'm saying, we have the Trillium grant that's opening up on February the 7th. Who's applying for that? I haven't heard anybody talking about that the Trillium grant opens up on February the 7th. There's the possibility of getting $200,000 in terms of repairs for the pool. But is there somebody actively putting the application in? You are?
No, Spoke to Mr. Dorsey
Yeah.
about it, and he's going to review it this weekend
Yeah.
and get back to one of the fundraising committee members.
Good. You know, but these are the types of things that, you know, if we're not looking out for, you know, we're going to end up with some serious issues. And really, to say, okay, we're going to defer, and I see some of the plans in terms of the strategy, we're going to defer, okay, I don't know, you saw in here that the importance in terms of playground equipment, some of the recommendations is to actually remove the Kinsman playground equipment to pay for some of the pool repairs. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul all the time. You're ending further back in the types of issues that we have. So where are you going to find the $70,000 for that park equipment next year? How come we're not waiting on that decision based on the outcome of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan? I know it's difficult, I understand, but I think I don't want to be rushed into agreeing to repairing something that we know is at its end of life. It's on life support, and it's not just the structure, I can tell you that, because I can show you the pictures that I've taken, and I can make them public in terms of the pictures that I've taken when I did the building walkthrough. There's some serious issues in that building that need to be resolved. And I hate to tell you, if we're just talking canopy and some HVAC, 1.4 million isn't going to cut it. And you're going to have another pump failure, and maybe once you put 1.4 million into it, you get a week out of it, and the pool decking around the pool is cracking. There's concerns in terms of deterioration of the basin. Where's the structural assessments that are done with that to say that it's going to last a certain period of time until we have a pool replacement in place? I heard a lot last night in regards to, you know, the importance of terms of having a pool in terms of health and wellness, and I don't disregard that at all. It is truly, truly important. But it also, you know, you can't have your neighbor say, I'm going to give you 50 cents to swim, and you're paying for the pool. Meanwhile, you go in your house and it's dripping on your head. Just go next door. It's dripping on your head, and the foundation is deteriorating. So that's why the bigger picture look has to happen. And that's why I'm looking at, instead of being, you know, looking at just the pool, broaden it out in terms of this group that would look at, you know, improvements in terms of, and it's Pembroke and community. So it's not just Pembroke. Pembroke and Community Recreation Improvement Working Group. Not advisory, not going to come and tell you what to do. In terms of making sure that maybe they're on top of the grants, looking for those fundraising activities, opening up the portal. We have a capability in terms of a portal that we have in terms of our booking systems. It says fundraising on it. You could click it. You could identify where you put your dollars to. It's not turned on. Turn it on. Turn it on. Turn it on now. Get those dollars in place. Let's see what we can, maybe allow the community to say, hey, we'll give you 30 days. We'll open up the portal, put your information in there, put your money where your mouth is, right? If you got, what is it, 16, 18,000 people now, $100 a piece? I think we'd be pretty close to doing those repairs in a timely manner and still meet the timelines where it's open this year. But I think until those things are satisfied, I will not be supporting the motion to open the pool. And also, I won't be willing to open it until all the safety repairs are completed. So I know that the Ministry of Labor said in some cases that we may operate it with all these different conditions. I would be saying no. It stays closed until the repairs are completed. And we have those dollars, and we know where those dollars are coming from. And we have a true estimate in terms of life expectancies with engineering assessments of all mechanical systems within the pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purcell. Councillor Keel.
Well, now I forget what I was going to say. So I do have one problem with the proposed motion, which is, I think it says we direct staff to proceed with the repairs. I'm not prepared to do that until we know how we're paying for it. I think I understand where the mayor's coming from, that some of our partners want to know what we're going to do before they start talking dollars and cents. To that, I'm going to say, I don't care what their parameters are, and I'm not going to be dictated to by outside parties when they're going to decide to tell us how much money they have available. I mean, we've been sitting with Laurentian Valley for, I think, years when we were talking about the $42 million new pool, and there has never been a dollar commitment. So I said last night, there's been some proposals shoved around. I think the most recent one, was that we want 30% coverage from outside parties. So whether it's Laurentian Valley or Whitewater or if Councillor Jacquino, I think, is the one that brought up schools, or this public group that so fervently and enthusiastically last night said that they're ready to go to bat. They're ready to put their money where their mouth is, and I take them at their word. They were quite clear on that. And I spoke with Ms. Conway, who spoke last night. I met with her last week, and I'm not going to say she's speaking on behalf of her entire group, but when I said we need some buy-in, she didn't discount that, and she didn't discount it last night. She agreed that we need to move. So my only problem is I'm not going to sit here today and direct staff to proceed with repairing the pool when we still don't know how we're actually paying for it. I think in that respect, Councillor Purcell's right. I think we're going too quickly. If, and I suppose I have to put this back onto the mayor because he's the one that had the discussions. If our partners want to know, is there a majority of us around this table that are willing to look at the repair plan? Because obviously, we can do many different things. We could say, no, let's wait for the P3. I think it should be good enough for them to know that a majority of us do generally support this $1.4 million repair. I don't want to direct staff, though, until we actually hear how we're either closing that 30% gap or what money's out there. Because at the end of the day, the last thing that I want is for us to get stuck with the bill because people start seeing construction, on the pool and they go, well, it's being built. Council voted to build it. We don't need to fundraise. We don't need to go out there. And I'm not saying everybody's going to do that. But I think it's generally accepted that once something happens, fundraising starts to plummet. People lose interest. I mean, right now they're interested because the doors are closed. And I don't want to say that's the only reason that they're interested, but let's talk about reality. They weren't here a month ago asking us to fundraise for the pool because it was open. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Sometimes a lot of us, myself included, you only move when push comes to shove. We closed the pool and now we have robust community support. And my understanding is it's been like that before. I don't want to keep looking at the chair, but I think there's previously been a Friends of the Pool when an issue came up. So I believe that their sentiment is positively valued. I just think they themselves will have a hard time fundraising once the pool's open again. So the mayor suggested there, maybe we can do some wordsmithing and whatnot. And again, he's the one that had the meeting with our partner. I'm not prepared to say to staff, we're going to do it. That decision needs to be made once we have the actual financial plan to do it. In terms of the Kinsman Pool Playground, the only reason I supported putting that on the chopping block this year is because I'm truly and honestly wondering how much of a playground we will need when literally meters from the playground is going to be a giant construction site. So if we're going forward with the repair of the building, I'm not sure that playground is going to be open, frankly. It is literally that close to the construction site. Another resident earlier today sent us an email saying, well, we want the wading pool open. Well, not in the middle of a construction site, it's not going to be. I mean, I haven't spoken to Mr. DeRoche, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say the wading pool will not be open if we're repairing the Butler building or putting on a new Butler building. We're going to have to look at other options, maybe maybe Riverside Park and whatnot. So I guess, Madam Chair, you did say maybe a second round, and maybe the mayor has some thoughts on maybe how we can show our commitment to the repair, because we could say, no, we're not repairing it. We're going to wait 5 years and we're going to focus on a new one. What I heard last night from the community was they want this stopgap option, and that a number of them said it, Madam Chair, you were there, they will continue to fundraise for the new pool. that to me is a balancing of the two things. So I'm prepared to say that, yes, I am absolutely in favor of changing what our current course is and repairing the pool this year. I'm just not ready to do it until we have an actual financial plan. So that's where I'm at, and I think, I mean, I'm talking kind of strongly here, but I think we can massage the wording somehow tonight to get to where that is. I don't mean to sound like I'm opposed to the motion. I think the motion, I'm assuming when we say we direct staff to go repair it, that tomorrow, you know, the CAO and Mr. DeRoche are picking up the phone saying, let's start ordering a Butler building. So I'm not there yet until we know how we're paying for it, but I am there in terms of that's the direction I would like us to go after last night.
Thank you. I'm going to speak from the chair, if that's okay, before we go around again. So I'm in favor of fixing the pool, and I hear all the comments around the table. I want to make sure we know what we're getting into. I agree that maybe another engineer's assessment, just to see what we're in for. But when I came away from that meeting last night, I knew that we had to do something. I mean, we can't go 2 years. If we wait till the fall to make a decision on whether we're fixing it, it's going to take 9-10 months before we can start to fix it, and it's going to be 2 years without pool. We're going to lose staff. We're going to lose the expertise. We're going to tick off a lot of individuals that possibly moved to this community because we had a pool. So I don't want to take that on. However, I do feel the same way as Councillor Keel when it comes to securing those funds from other municipalities. We heard it loud and clear last night that 48% of the users are Pembroke, and the other 52 are between Laurentian Valley and other municipalities. So 38% of the users are Laurentian Valley. So I think that's exactly how that letter should be crafted, indicating the statistics, the expense, and are they willing to share up to 38%? And it's like, let's show them our hand, and then maybe they'll come back and say, because I know I sympathize they've completed their budgets, but as we know, things can be moved around in budgets, and we just have to ask. If you don't ask, you can't say you asked. So that's my feeling, is that we should be basing our ask, not just saying, this is what we're spending, what will you give us? These are the statistics. We've heard loud and clear from a lot of their own residents as well that they want, to be involved. So that's good news. And I know that the representatives at Laurentian Valley understand the dilemma we're in, as well as them. They don't want people leaving their municipality because there's no pool. I mean, they boast the same services as we do when individuals are moving to their municipality as we do. So we're in this together. We are not an island. So let's reach out to those other municipalities. Final comment. I am concerned, though. I really want to try to expedite this as quickly as we can, from everything from the engineering study that would hopefully satisfy Councillor Purcell, to move forward to know what are we looking at. My vision is that we expedite the repair, get it running, know how much money, and then plan maybe to keep this facility open for 10 years to give us enough time to work with our partners on a capital debenture plan where we're all sharing in the expense. Gives us 10 years to fundraise, to get that shovel-ready plan and to do all what we need to do. But I agree with Councillor Jackno, we need a date. So let's put a date as a goal and work towards that. And I think that's what we need to do. But I don't plan on slapping 1.4 or 2 million, or maybe it's going to end up being 3 million on a building unless we can run it for 10 years. And that's my vision. I'm disappointed. I know there was some individuals upset about the wading pool. Like, if we don't have the Kinsman, can we at least have a wading pool to teach our littles how to at least, get used to the water? I'm hoping that if we expedite it, the pool would be repaired maybe by June or July if we're really lucky. I don't know. I don't know how long a construction takes to set up a Butler building, but I don't know. I don't know if they bring it in piece by piece. That's not my expertise. That being said, that Butler building could be relocated to be maybe a cover for a all-year turf type facility or some kind of sports field that could be utilized all year round. So I see other possibilities. My final comment. I do not want to see anything from this budget cut that we feel we need next year, because we're getting back into kicking the can down the road. And as an older, more experienced, I'm going to say old, most experienced counselor, we've been kicking the can down the road, as you say. How many years? We can't kick it anymore. I say put those dollars back in the budget. If we're fixing the pool, if we have to bring that percentage up from 5.9 to 6.6, I would rather that, because our ratepayers have to know that we are moving forward and we're improving recreation. So those are my comments, and I'm not going to belabor it, but now we'll go back to the mayor.
I'm just, so I appreciate the comments from everyone, and certainly if staff wants to jump in as well, because I certainly don't discount their experience on this. So what I was just writing out, and this is, again, that's why I didn't make this, that first thing a motion. It's, let's talk about it, let's see. So this is something that just on the fly I was writing out, as council moves repairs to the Kingsman Pool project at a cost of 1.4 million, pending commitment from surrounding municipalities and municipal partners in the amount of, and we would figure out what that is tonight, no later, and what I'm sort of throwing out there, no later than, do we want a specified date so that we can finish our budget process? I'm throwing that out there, with direction to communicate with the municipal partners to that end. In other words, there's direction to, you need to communicate with these people. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there, but, and I don't know what the amount is. I know that in part of the proposed from Madam Treasurer, there was different numbers, and then and I don't know what percentage it is. I'd end up looking at staff. There was an amount that said this amount would need to be funded by other means outside of the city of Pembroke. So I don't know what that amount is, but even if that was acceptable, and I appreciate council members' concerns saying, well, but we haven't figured out even our house as to how it is that we would pay for it, but need to do something, or as I said, you end up having another meeting in February, towards the end of February for budget, and then you're just pushing everything out for the 2020.
So from the chair, I'm just going to make a quick comment before we go around to see what people think of this. We used to historically do budgets at the end of January, and we still got them done. So I know our next meeting is February 2nd. If we have to put budgets off for 1 week, I don't see it ending the world, because I don't want to force all of us into deciding. If we haven't heard back from those municipalities, like, I don't want to be like, okay, well, let's push it through the budget, man, because, we need to get it done. So if we have to move that budget date by a week, it gives them time to try to scrape their dollars together too, because it is something they have to work on. I'm sure they don't have a money tree, at their city hall or wherever. So I would say that. Something else I want everyone to consider as we're going around the table the next time is, if we're closing the pool until it's fixed, staff. If staff are going to be laid off for 4 or 5 months, we want to retain them when we reopen in June or July or whenever. So there has to be something done. If they're not working for so long, we are dealing with some some labor relations problems, I believe. So I think we have to keep them working, and I'm going to ask Mr. Unruh to speak to that. So I just wanted you to hear him before we go around.
Yes, Madam Chair. So I can speak to a few items. So I'm trying to communicate also with the treasurer at the same time in regards to what that means, because I know that we talked about delaying the February 2nd and the February 6th. So I know she had a lot of concerns with that. So so in regards to the labor side of it, and that's in essence the urgency to get this going and get the permit going sooner than later. And so there are certain rules that will kick in that will have to terminate employment of staff. I would say, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but like I would say probably a lot of our student lifeguards have started to find other jobs. So that's going to be a huge actually commitment right now to actually get them back if we can get them back. The 5 full-time staff, they will unfortunately have to be terminated if this is delayed long enough. And so that's the urgency that we're talking about. We're talking about not laying people off, we're talking about terminating staff. So that's in regards to the urgency. In regards to the delay, I can't speak on behalf of other municipalities in regards to their timing. I can't see, just a minute, I'm getting a text from the treasurer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that she's talking about that the deadline would be very tight if it was the 9th in regards to pushing the February 2nd meeting to the February 9th to get the package out by the 20th. So she has some concerns in regards to pushing the budget process.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear.
Yeah, so anything later than that, we would be passing the budget on the 20th of February as advertised. So I think that was the issue is in regards to, we'd have to push back and we'd have to do the public advertising in regards to when we're publishing the budget. So yeah, to get back to the urgency, that's the urgency, because we're talking about people's employment.
Do you know what that timeline is, Mr. Unruh? Like, what is the,
It's pushing it right now. Like, I think the July timeframe, I'd have to go back to to HR, but I think in between 30 weeks to 35 weeks, I think that's the bubble. The problem is, though, like as soon as you lay them off,
yeah, they might start looking.
are they going to be sticking around? So,
Okay.
in regards to the work should be 3 to 5 months to get completed. So the thought is if we can do the procurement within the next short while, we can get them on the ground April 1st and get the work done. Some of the other questions. So that's the urgency. That's
Okay.
the staffing terminations.
Okay, thank you. And the budget.
And the budget and the other municipalities. That's where I was going. So in regards to the other municipalities, yeah, I don't know their time frame in regards to another meeting. I know I could probably say pretty confidently that there would be no meetings for councils next week because everyone would be at Roma. And so you're talking the week after. And so like if we delay this, then it's not going to gain us anything by delaying it because other councillors won't be able to get together next week. And so I think if we have an opportunity this week to get that letters out,
Okay.
and at least that they can start planning.
Okay.
So she's mentioning that also that you don't have to make a final decision on the pool repair to pass the budget, but we'll need to take the funding out of reserve in 2024 to repair it in 24. So she's saying like we could pass the budget and
Make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as the money's there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing is just to make the commitment that we're going to
Fix.
do the repair and trust that the surrounding municipalities and trust that the fundraising will occur.
Okay, thank you. Councillor
any
Purcell had
other
just, sorry, I
questions?
think that was it, around the table, yeah. So I'll just let Councillor Purcell make a short comment, and then we're going to start again going around. Well, why don't I start with Councillor Keel, unless it was something pertinent to...
Well, I was just going to recommend, if there's a motion, that we could have a special meeting on Thursday evening to have, you know, HR, labor relations, as well as the treasurer here, so that we can make a little bit more informed decisions in regards to, you know, the status of those employees, as well as where those dollars are going to come from. So, and I know that next week doesn't work. I don't know who's all going to Aroma. You are. So 1, 2.
Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, so I was just going to mention, I'm not sure what more that you're going to get from HR. So I'm telling you right now
You don't
that
have specialists that are human relations specialists or labor relations specialists?
yeah,
I trust that Mr. Unruh
telling you
knows what
that-
he's saying. He's giving us a date, so many months.
Yeah,
so
it's 30
it's
to
urgent
35
now.
months that in regards to termination.
Okay, I just, you know, and you can see where I'm coming from, you know, past, you know, users is 8,000, and then it came 16,000 and 24,000 users of the pool. It was just snow load in regards that was going to be a concern, static load, and then it becomes water, and it becomes wind. I just want to make sure that we're getting accurate information. That's my concern is that, you know, I really want to make an informed decision, and right now I'm feeling that we don't have enough time based on what we still have to complete on the agenda. Otherwise, it's going to be another 12:20 night. You know, and I think that rushing this serves no purpose, especially when we don't have those specialists that are available to put together a strategy, a plan where those dollars are coming from. And also, you know, a written opinion in regards to the human resources in terms of what that looks like for all our staff that would be impacted. I mean, the staff can't work if the facility when they're being repaired. So what are we going to do? Just stick them in that one side of the building, and what are they going to do? These are the questions I have. I don't know.
So through the chair, I was asking Mr. DeRoche if we could bring them back early, you know, because the parks are going to be open, the marina's going to be open. Perhaps we could bring them back before that deadline, you know, that we have to follow, and let them know that it was only going to be maybe a 4-month layoff, then bring them back in the spring. That would be my solution, bring them back early from a layoff, because we know that facility is going to open. At least we're retaining that staff.
Or we use those staff instead of students.
Exactly.
Like, there's other ways that we can look at, you know, repurposing, you know, those individuals that are impacted for a short period of time. But, I mean, I think, you know, based on a lot of the information that provided, I just question the accuracy of some of the information. I just want to make sure that we have the specialists, the appropriate professionals in place, even if it needs to be a consultant, to provide us some guidance in terms of where we need to be. I think that's probably more important than, you know, well, we think it's going to be this, we're not really sure that many, this is the deadline. I don't know. I really don't know. And
So
I'm
I guess
questioning
that for
the
discussion
accuracy.
purposes tonight, the decision is, are we fixing the pool? And can we at least reach out to the municipalities to see if they can help us out with this 1.4 million to some number? That's the decision for tonight. And we can ask for that other information to come forward in the next couple of weeks. And that will give us the time to begin the repairs at least, and maybe satisfy.
And as long as we consider the 70% coming from, you know, public donations, and the 70% would equal for 1.4 million is 238,000.
Okay. So we're going to begin with Councillor Keel.
Your worship, could you just remind me of the blanks that you needed filling in? Because I generally liked the structure of your motion. One of the blanks was the number, the dollar amount.
Yes, and then my other question was whether or not you wanted a time frame on it, but just real quickly, without belaboring this, but council moves to repairs be made to the Kingsman Pool at a cost of 1.4 million pending commitment from surrounding municipalities and from municipal partners in the amount of blank. And then I put no later than blank, and direction to, which is the direction part, to communicate with the municipal partners to that end. So 2 blanks, a dollar amount and a time frame. So that, to answer some of the questions so that it doesn't get dragged on forever, yeah.
Okay, so for the purposes of discussion, because we don't have an actual motion at the moment, I previously passed around a version that was looking for 25% from the community. And when I say community, I mean municipal partner, whoever, just 25% that isn't us. The treasurer, the treasurer's number was 432,500, and my calculator tells me that's in the 31%, the 31% range. So just for the purposes of quick discussion, I would be willing to suggest the treasurer's 432,500, but I'm personally willing to go as low as 25%, depending on what the rest of council wants to do. In terms of a timeline, I'm not even sure we can set that. It just needs to, like, this just needs to have, in fact, I would leave the timeline in the hands of the mayor and the CAO. Because I'm sure not only will there likely be a letter, I'm sure there'll be some discussions as well. And I have faith that the mayor and the CAO can communicate our urgency based on what's going on. So that would be my number, Your Worship.
Councillor Purcell, final. Okay, thank you. Councillor Jackno, are you still with us?
I am.
Okey doke. Yes.
Did you want me to comment?
Yes, any final comments after hearing everything?
Yes, I think there's some sage opinions around the table. I think we all are after the same goal. I'm just going to comment that, from the meeting last night, I think we have an enthusiastic group of people to fundraise. And the worst thing you can do to a group like that is to put them off and say, you know what, we're not really ready, so can you come back in a month or two? And you're going to lose them. The iron is hot. Let them strike. Let us help them. Give them the tools to help them achieve their aim, whatever that goal is financially. I think we should challenge them as well. Say, look, the city is going to come up with this X number of dollars based on budget, reserve funding, whatever, taking funding out of capital, whatever. We expect you as a fundraising group to come up with this. Can you do it? And I think people like to be challenged. If you said to them, well, just get what you can, it's not going to happen. People like a challenge, and they like to be part of a winning group and a winning team. So I think that the people involved in the fundraising, there should be a champion from each municipality. So it's just not, perceived as, well, here's old Pembroke, shoving it down our throat again, and we shop in the community and we buy our, groceries there, and all they do is let us have the pool once in a while. So I think there's people out there in other communities who understand the financial implications. And if you have those groups working as champions within the region, I think you could come up with a lot of money. I think you would be surprised. And, you look at the hospital, you look at the Legion, Catchies, there are methods. And there are other methods that people could look at that we're not even looking at. Money is there. You just got to knock on the right door to find it. I think we should challenge them, meet with them, and do it as a corporate entity. All of us working together in unison for the same goal. And I think that's what people want. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackno. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Chair. I would agree with Councillor Keel that I think maybe we should talk about a range. So a 25, like I just do it up, 25% is 350,000, 30% is 420,000. So we'd expect the community or other partners to come up between 25 and 30%. That way we can understand that, we're going to be, because again, there may be just a range of donations come in. It could, the lower end is 25 and the higher end is 30, but you could have more. Barring that, I hear Councillor Purcell's concerns about an engineering assessment of other material in the pool, not just understanding that we get a shell in place, and then all of a sudden we go down the road and we decide exactly the pool basin is basically end of life. So I would hope that this council would direct staff to get a full assessment of the pool and all of its mechanical parts to go along with this, understanding that then we will get a timeline. We understand that putting a shell on, yes, the shells will last 20 plus years, could last 50 years, but the mechanical inside the pool probably won't. So doing this, it would give us, is it 5 years? Do we get 10 years out of life out of this pool without putting more substantial money in? We work towards building a new pool. So my only suggestion in the motion is we pick a range, or we go lower end of 25%, because I think 420 is a big ask to come up with in 2 months. If we're talking about going to tender in April to get this pool built, that only really gives us 2.5 months to raise that sort of dollars. That's a good challenge for the municipality, or as well the working group or the fundraising group to succeed or to strive for. So, but I would just caution on going with the full 30%, saying we're not going to do anything if we don't get the 420. So that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
I do agree with getting an assessment of the mechanical room. I know the boilers are put in a few years ago, the pump. I know the filtration system is the original system, but it does work. And I also know you can buy filters for it, so it does work. But the assessment would be good. I do like the proposal that staff forwarded on Monday through the treasurer and the staff, that said sources of funding and then moving some items through the budget. Makes sense. We need to move ahead and pass this motion tonight and get the wheels in motion. And then, as we said, the P3, go ahead with that, see how that goes. Hopefully it goes successfully. And plan ahead. And so just get the motion out there and get moving. And the Trillium grant, I spoke with Mr. Dorsey today. Ms. Conway contacted Councillor Keel and I last night or something. And he's going to contact her early next week. March 6th deadline for the $200,000 for capital fund needs to go through a non-profit or municipality. So the city would be doing the grant application with advisement from this fundraising group. So Mr. Dorsey is going to look into that. I see that going ahead, application. That's just my opinion. So let's get it passed, put in a dollar figure, 25 to 30%, and move forward.
Okay, so I agree with the engineering study. I agree with asking for the 25% from our municipal partners. Our fundraising group that seems very committed, I really feel they should be tasked to fundraise for the future expenditures, because I'm sure there's going to be some when the engineer study comes out. So rather than put the pressure or wait for them to come through, I think that 25% should be requested from the municipal partners. And then we know we need a HVAC, which is about $800,000. We can task the group with that. That doesn't have to be done right away, although I'm sure it's easier to install when you're putting the building, the structure there. I'm not sure how that works. But I think that we should go, approach the municipal partners first. That would be a quicker way of knowing we're getting the funding for that 1.4, and we can at least move forward and task that group with ongoing repairs and the new facility to work with us in the future. So that's how I feel. Do we need just direction to staff for that engineer's report, I would imagine? Or do we need formal?
Yeah, so
motion?
what I'll do is I'll get an estimate in regards to what it will cost, and we'll just put it into the budget.
But that's for the 1.4. I'm talking
No,
about.
sorry, for the building condition assessment?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd have to get an estimate for that, and we'd put it into the budget.
Okay.
So that's beyond the 1.4 million.
Yes.
To do the repairs.
Exactly. Okay. So that would be my suggestion, would be just to put that ask to the municipalities for 25% for now. So.
I'm trying to get the consensus in terms of is it a dollar amount? Is it a percentage? I imagine other partners and whatnot could do the math and go 1.4 times whatever percent, but I'm just, and then if I had clarity on that, I'd make the motion, but I'm just.
I guess my only problem there is if you send the same letter to both municipalities, they might just take a chunk out of it, because we know that like Whitewater is a smaller player and Quebec, like Shawville, is a smaller player. So what if you broke it down with percentages, 20% and 5, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, Mr.
Sorry,
Unruh?
sorry to interrupt, but so I would say that with the motion that we would put it at approximately 25%, and then staff will send out the letters appropriately with the ask to be appropriate with the users. And so like TLV, like you said, you have the 38. I have another one that's 34, so we'd have to, like, it all depends. And then there's that 18% that is other municipalities. I'll get a breakdown of what that is, and then do that ask to, say, the town of Petawawa, to Whitewater, Bonnechere Valley. So I think if you left it at 25% from municipal partners and let staff figure out how, in regards to the
wonderful.
letters.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Plummer?
The only thing I'd add to that would be the municipal part and other sources, because there may be other sources we're not, we don't want to limit ourselves to. If someone does come in with a donation or there is a grant or something that way, I just don't want to limit it. Just municipal partners is 25%. There may be other ways of coming up with that money. So I would say,
I would think any donations come into the city would go right into that capital or recreation reserve, for anything that's coming up if it was already covered, really, so.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt again, but yeah, so what staff, I was talking to him today, is that we'll activate the page that we use similar to the seed campaign that was very, very successful. So we'll just activate that page. And if people want to make a donation right directly to the city of Pembroke, they can go through that page. And it automatically puts out the tax receipts, and it works very well. Staff was very happy with it. So I would say that we'd activate that right away for that other sources. And I don't want to preclude, say, the Trillium grant or additional funding that could be coming from the province. So.
What about this then? So council moves repairs to be made to the Kingsman Pool at a cost of 1.4 million, pending commitment from surrounding municipalities, municipal partners, and other sources in the amount of 25%, and direction to communicate with municipal partners and others to that end.
Okay, so we have a mover, the mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. So it was a tie. I'll call the tie, doesn't really matter. Just further comments, and one further comment from the chair. The 25 cents, 25% is for now, but ongoing repairs would continue to be fundraised, and that, I don't want them thinking we're happy with just 25% and everybody can go their way, because I think this needs to continue, like you said. So as long as that's clear. Okay, I am going to call the question, and I don't think we need a recorded vote. I think we're sort of unified here tonight, so I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Passed. Unanimous. Thank you. Is there anything else to come forward tonight at this meeting? Nope. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Keel, Deputy Mayor, we are adjourned. Thank you. Good night.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of council for January 16, 2024 to order. I would ask that everyone take a moment to please stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I will be disclosing a pecuniary interest in relation to bylaw 2024-04, sale of land, lot 46, LaPointe subdivision, perceived pecuniary interest as Robert Shepherd acts for LaPointe Motor Holdings. Next up, we have minutes, and we have approval of minutes, regular meeting of council, January 2nd, 2024. I'd entertain a motion for their approval. I have the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is adoption of minutes from committee meetings. We have one this evening, Parks and Recreation Committee, December 19th, 2023. I have Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. At this time, in keeping with an indication from our Integrity Commissioner, I will be asking the Deputy Mayor to chair bylaws, and I will be taking his seat.
Committee reports. Item number 5A, Code of Conduct complaint, final report. CEO UNRWA.
Yes, through the chair. So the recommendation of this report is that council receive the report for information and direct staff on how council would like to have the report made public. So the City Integrity Commissioner, Mr. Tony Fleming, recently completed an investigation regarding a Code of Conduct complaint, and council has received the report. As outlined in his final report, Mr. Fleming, indicated that council does not have the authority to alter the findings of the report, but will need to decide as per section 223-6 brackets 3 of the Municipal Act how the report will be made public. Staff did not include the full report on the agenda in advance of council deciding how the report will be made public. Mr. Fleming and his associate Lisa Schoeneman will be attending the meeting virtually to present the report and are online right now.
Councillor Purcell.
I believe we have an individual in the audience that would also like to speak this part of the agenda as well. So motion to allow this individual to speak. I know that she contacted the CAO requesting that she could participate this evening. And maybe we can get an update by the CAO.
Mr. UNRWA.
As per the procedure bylaw, she is not allowed to speak.
Can you please state what section and the actual verbiage?
So it's under section 5.5.2. Attendees shall not participate in a meeting unless listed on the agenda as a delegation or presentation and shall be subject to the rules and procedures of this bylaw. In addition, I did seek a legal opinion, and the legal opinion also stated that it wasn't appropriate for the individual to speak.
I guess I'm a little concerned in regards to our bylaw that they didn't meet the requirement in terms of the appropriate notification as well. Is that correct? The notification period?
So I'm referencing section 5.5.2.
Sorry, I'm looking at Appendix D, procedures to delegates to appear and present at regular council.
Yeah, I'm just referencing section 5.5.2, that they weren't listed as on the agenda as a delegate or a presentation.
Okay, but was there a request to appear before council this evening?
Yeah, I received one. It was at 3:40. No, I don't know exact time, but it was this afternoon.
So then, I guess, the issue would be, is that they did not respect the notification period in terms of 12 noon on the Wednesday prior to the regular council or standing meeting?
So I'm not sure what is being asked, but
clarity.
so,
Well,
you know,
what's the reason that she was not allowed to appear?
So I'm making reference that it's section 5.5.2 is that the
I don't
attendee
have
shall
that.
not participate in a meeting unless listed on the agenda as a delegation or a presentation. The individual is not listed on the agenda.
But she requested to appear on the agenda, right?
So as per the procedural, as per the municipal act, we can't make a bylaw against the procedural bylaw. So the person that wanted to have a delegation would have to give prior notice as per the procedural bylaw. So we are going by the procedural bylaw,
Okay.
unless you,
I wanted to comment on the procedural bylaw as well. So the individual comes forward, wants to speak at this meeting, was only aware that this was coming today. There was really no public notification other than on Friday, but I guess they had to have a crystal ball in regards to requesting to meet the timelines because they weren't aware of this last Wednesday. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Does that make sense to everyone? You know, so I think my concern here is that, you know, we have to do something with this procedural bylaw. It doesn't make sense. Again, I don't know, you know, it even cost me an integrity complaint in regards to transparency and accountability of April 18th. I guess nobody heeded what the conversation was all about. I use that as an example. That, you know, somebody wants to attend council. They only are aware on Friday that this is an issue that's coming due. There's no other prior notification. But then we say that they can't appear because they didn't give notice 2 days prior. Then the communication went out to the public. We got to do better. So I move that we allow the individual to speak tonight. Do I have a seconder?
yes. Seconder?
I'll second it for the purposes of discussion
Okay,
and
we'll have
having
a
a vote.
discussion. We'll go around the table here. Councillor Keel?
Can I discuss what we're discussing? Is that okay with? Okay, so I'm torn on this in two directions. What we have before us today is the complainant in the Code of Conduct report wanting to be able to address council. The reason I say that I'm torn, and Councillor Purcell knows that I'm torn because he called me earlier today. On the one hand, I'm not sure. The Integrity Commissioner makes a determination, he makes factual rulings. Our Code of Conduct does not provide for the complainant to have an ability to speak to council. So on the one hand, the ask, I guess, is for something that also doesn't exist in the Code of Conduct realm. But I appreciate Councillor Purcell's comment that how can somebody, not just this person, but anybody, bring a delegation on a pertinent matter when you have to give notice 2 days before the agenda comes out? So I agree that there are procedural problems with this, But on the other hand, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess, I mean, when am I not blunt? So the Integrity Commissioner found, as a matter of fact and law, that the report, wow, we're really getting into this, that the mayor did not breach the code of conduct. So then, I guess the question that we have to consider is, does the complainant get to rebut something that we can't do anything about because we can't change or amend the Integrity Commissioner's complaint? That led me to then think that it's kind of strange, because if the Integrity Commissioner were to find that one of us breaches the code, should the complainant, if they choose voluntarily, should they not get to speak to us before we rule on the penalty? Which in most cases, criminal, regulatory, if you're found guilty of something, you also then get to make submissions on how important it was. So to me, there's two realms going on here, and unfortunately, I'm opposed to one but in favor of the other. So that's why I thought we could have this conversation. But certainly, if it was council's will, and I realize we haven't even gone around the table yet, if it was council's will to allow the complainant to identify themselves and to speak, I'm going to tell you it would be a short. It would have to be short and it would have to be professional, but I would probably vote against that until our own code of conduct addressed it. But procedurally, we have a big problem. I agree with Councillor Purcell.
I don't have a lot to say about this. I guess my question is, was no notice issued notifying the complainant of tonight's meeting?
No, there was not, ma'am.
Wow. I think that might be a flaw in the system, absolutely. That being said, it's sort of after the fact now, so I don't see that we can break our own procedural bylaw tonight by allowing her to speak, but I do think that is a problem, that a complainant is not notified from someone's office that this meeting was going to take place tonight. And so.
Yeah, Councillor Purcell.
Yeah.
So, based on that information, I move to table this, this discussion to a later date.
Is there a seconder to table? Councillor Plummer, are you seconding the motion to table?
Are we tabling are we tabling the matter to allow someone to speak, or table the matter of the entire Integrity Commissioner's report?
The entire matter until the individual is able to participate.
Councillor Unruh, or CEO Unruh, you have information?
Wow, it just got elevated. So I just wanted to kind of, be clear. Like, I'm not interpreting, the rules and that. I am just following the rules that are in front of me. So, but I was just wondering in regards to the Integrity Commissioner, Tony, if he had a comment in regards to tabling this or having the individual speak, if this is something normal, because we didn't certainly have the complainants in regards to the previous one speak, and there was no question in regards to that. So I was just wondering if Mr. Fleming had a comment.
Okay, so I'll allow Mr. Fleming to comment, and we have a motion. You seconded the motion?
I was getting further clarification. I did not second the motion.
Okay, so we don't have a seconder. No seconder. Mr. Fleming, did you want to comment?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. It would be highly unusual for a council to allow a complainant in a code of conduct complaint to speak. I've certainly never seen that in the meetings that I've attended to present reports. There's several difficulties, Mr. Chairman. The prime difficulty, in my view, is the report is final at this stage. The complainant was absolutely given an opportunity to present their complaint to us through the interview process. We took all of that into account when we prepared the report that's in front of council now. So it's not that the complainant has not had a role in the process and an ability to provide information necessary for us to find the findings that we've made. But procedurally, our report is a final report. It's before council. And regardless of whether council hears from one person or 100 people, council does not have the ability in the act to alter the findings in our report. So the report that's before council tonight, as Councillor Kuehl has indicated, found no breach of the code of conduct. So that finding of no breach can't be altered by council, regardless of who council might elect to hear from and speak to it. And the way the Municipal Act is drafted, unless there is a finding of breach by the Integrity Commissioner, council doesn't have authority to impose a penalty or sanction on the member. So council's role tonight is to, as CAO indicated, to accept the report for information and to determine how to make the report public. In my respectful submission to council, allowing the complainant or anyone else to comment or speak to the matter other than council itself simply doesn't provide council with additional information with respect to the decision it has to make tonight. My comments would be even stronger if we had in fact found a breach, because in my view, it would be unfair to the member to then have the complainant raise issues that we had already made findings on and presented those findings to council, because it's then indirectly attacking the findings of the report, and it's simply not a process that's provided for in the Act.
Thank you. Councillor Purcell?
Thank you for your comment. I appreciate that and the explanation. I guess my concern is how does one resolve the original issue in regards to the initiating concerns in regards to snow removal, those kinds of things that haven't been adequately addressed based on feedback from the resident. So I think if we kind of move that down to a different area, would that be an opportunity for that individual to, or could that individual come back at the next council meeting to discuss the original concern and exactly what I guess the remedy is in terms of moving forward?
Mr. Fleming, did you comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's not a matter that is related to the investigation that we
So she can
undertook. That's a substantive matter for council. Council
Right.
can deal with that underlying concern, which relates to your operations, in whatever way council would normally resolve that matter.
Okay, so the resident could come at a future council meeting to specifically discuss the issue. So we're going to move forward. Mr. Fleming, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, with respect to the report, I will be brief. I understand council has a real agenda that's full. So the substance is as set out in the report. This was related to a complaint against the mayor, that the mayor had received a complaint from a member of the public. The mayor indicated that he would look into it. The mayor then provided the substance of the complaint to staff and allowed staff to deal with it. That was the last that the mayor dealt with it. The complainant then received a letter from the municipality's solicitor, and the issue was whether there was a conflict of interest created because of the interaction as well as the mayor's employment with the law firm that is the municipality's primary solicitors. There was no issue with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. The complaint was brought outside the limitation period for the Conflict of Interest Act. However, the Code of Conduct does contain conflict provisions, so we considered the conflict provisions under the Code of Conduct. We made findings in the report that, notwithstanding that the mayor is employed by Shepherd and Gervais, in this particular incident, That did not create a conflict of interest because the mayor had simply provided the complaint to staff, and that was the last contact that the mayor had with respect to this complaint. Staff dealt with the complaint in their internal processes. The mayor had no decision-making or interaction with Ron Shepherd when the advice was given and letters were written and so on. So it is important to appreciate that the simple fact that the mayor is employed by the law firm does not in and of itself create a conflict. It creates the potential for conflicts of interest, and where those conflicts of interest arise, the mayor has a personal obligation to address those potential conflicts in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act and the Code of Conduct. And I noted at the beginning of this meeting, during the pecuniary interest declaration section, the mayor did declare an interest related to a matter that was being dealt with by Shepherd and Gervais. So I don't know anything about that matter, but that is an example, I would suspect, of a incident where the mayor is dealing with the potential for a conflict of interest that might arise through his employment. With respect to the facts and the complaint that was before us and that is contained in our report to council tonight, after our investigation, we did not find that there was any conflict of interest with respect to the specific facts, and we found that the mayor dealt with the matter appropriately in the circumstances. So with that, Your Worship, that concludes my summary of the report that's before council.
Thank you. So we can have questions asked of you now from our council members, and then we have to make a motion to how we're going to make it public. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, any questions, comments? Councillor Keel?
So number one, I think we have a motion on the table dealing with the lady in the gallery, which I think we can dispose of quickly. And then I would move that we post this report on the website as per our prior precedent.
Okay, clerk, can you just read, was there a motion? Who made the motion, seconded, just for review?
There was a motion made, moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel, that we allow the individual to speak this evening.
Okay, those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, motion defeated. You have a motion, Councillor Keel, for the report?
That we post the report on the City of Pembroke website in accordance with our precedent, past precedent.
We have a seconder, Councillor Plummer. Any discussion? Those in favor? Carried. So we're all done with that, Mr. Fleming?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think there should be a motion just to accept the report for information, just to allow that to be on the record.
Okay, motion to accept the report for information on the record. Councillor Lafreniere, second Councillor Keel. Any discussion? No, seeing that. Those in favor? Carried. That's it then?
That concludes our matters,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good night. Next item is bylaw. Please note that the mayor has left the table and he's declared a pecuniary interest on bylaw 2024-04, sale of land, lot 46, La Pointe subdivision. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-04, a bylaw to authorize the proposed sale of lands, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-04, a bylaw to authorize the proposed sale of lands, be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, by the deputy mayor and clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? Carried. I will now call the mayor to come back, take his spot.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And in the interest of time, I'm not bringing forward a mayor's report this evening. That brings us to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, it brings us to councillor updates, and perhaps if we can just go around the table and bring forward your reports from the various committees that you sit upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I have a report here. We'll do the Economic Development Committee report. This was prepared by Ms. Sutherland. This past year, the Economic Development Committee, which Your Worship and I sit on, has been quite busy. There was a successful application to the Rural Economic Development Grant Program to run a business retention and expansion project, and that work started in the fall of 2023 and will wrap up later this year. Part of the leadership group for the Pembroke Community Expo held at the PMC. There were 83 vendors total, a mix of commercial businesses and nonprofits, and the attendance of around 800 people over that two-day event. Research work continues on surplus land inventory. We received 4 new CIP applications, 2 of which were successful. We completed the 3rd phase of the Service Concierge Program, a partnership with Petawawa and Laurentian Valley to provide workshops for local businesses. 2023's program focused on business beautification. Industrial park sell sheets to support the McCool and Transcan parks were reviewed. Fielded several inquiries about buying land in the 2 industrial parks. Continued work on setting up a CRM for contact and project management. Sponsored and attended a booth at the Indigenous Business Expo at the Clarion, which was a first-time event, Your Worship, which I think a few of us attended and was well attended by the community as well. We partnered with the Upper Ottawa Valley Chamber of Commerce to host the Mayor's Breakfast during the Small Business Week in October. Attended 14 openings and celebrations for new business and services. Completed the recertification process for the certified site lands on the Transcan Park. Meaning that the province will help market these cities' lands for us. Partnered with the PBIA on Holiday Edition Shop Hop in December. Partnered with the county to host the holiday market of Taste of the Valley. And our Economic Development Department updated the Pembroke Community Guide to be used for resident attraction and community information. So lots being done by a small but rather mighty Economic Development Department, Your Worship. And in terms of the Festival Hall Consortium that I represent the city on, Director Rick Wharton has provided me. He's provided me with this report, and it starts by me saying that Rick Wharton continues to impress as director, even from the hospital room. So our director this year, Mr. Wharton, was in hospital for some period of time with quite a serious illness. And even through that, events continued on at Festival Hall. Nothing was canceled because of his illness. His volunteers stepped up and everything kept running. He wants to give a big shout out to Lorelei Adlam Wharton, of course his wife who assisted during that time. That being a trying time, the volunteers nevertheless stepped up to the plate while he was away. There's a new box office manager, Jaden Thrasher, a student in Pembroke, and she's been doing an amazing job. Attendance of patrons in the theatre for the year 2023, 20,468 people, Your Worship. When people are wondering, is there anything going on in the city of Pembroke? Well, there's 20,468 people that can tell you that there are. 59 events, shows, and private bookings. They have 30 volunteers, including a volunteer meeting this weekend. Parking and construction certainly posed issues for Festival Hall throughout 2023, and I believe that they're continuing a little further into 2024. Rick continues to partner and strengthen relationships with Kiwanis, the Pembroke Symphony Orchestra, Fiddlefest, Streetlight Theatre, and all the local dance troupes, all of which are scheduled to return this year. Rick will continue his film series with his relationship and partnership with the Toronto International Film Festival. The theater is now more than ever hosting, producing events for local business and companies and causes. County of Renfrew Gala, Bishop Smith Grad, CNL events, Funny in a Good Way, school plays and events, and the concert for veterans, Your Worship, that was put on by one of our very own council members. 2024 looks promising with new shows and the return of all of our local groups. We should all share their social media and get the word out to come and support this great venue. The biggest theater in the valley. Rick says he has some great shows being planned, and he'll be in person for those ones. Tickets are purchased 70% online and 30% in person. So lots going on at Festival Hall, and it's continuing, and I invite everyone to either check out the box office, check out www.festhall.ca. There's already, I think, more than a dozen shows scheduled for this year. Those are my 2 reports.
Councillor Lafreniere?
Yes, I have 2 reports as well. The first one is for the Parks and Recreation, the year-end report. At the arenas, ice usage was up a total of 2.5% from the previous year. A total of 3,778 hours of ice was sold in 2023. Minor sports made up 81% of the overall ice sold, and the annual Silver Stick Hockey made up 9%. And the Kinsman Pool. Despite the impacts of 2.5-month pool closure due to mechanical failure, the Kinsman Pool saw over 14,000 people use the pool in 2023. 40% of users were residents, 33 and 27 were from outside of the city. So 33 from LV and 27 were non-residents of other municipalities. The marina provided rental agreements to 100 slip holders. Riverside Park campgrounds, a mini putt refresh was scheduled to revive the mini putt, with more work scheduled for 2024. Riverside Park, a no drinking water quality advisory in late June forced the splash pads to be closed for a minimal amount of time, but they're up and running in no time and enjoyed all summer by young ones alike. The ball diamonds. The ball diamond usage was up 32% from 2022 rental. Total usage 426 hours, and it's really nice to see that ball is increasing in our community again. And thank you to Dr. Williamson, I believe, who spearheads it. A new scoreboard was installed on ball diamond number 4 and sponsored by Friends of Bogey's Bar. A grant was submitted through the Jays Care Foundation by the Upper Ottawa Valley Little League in support of the department for field and infrastructure repairs, and the department will find out if we're successful this year. The department hosted the Provincial Little League Ball Tournament through efforts of the same organization, Upper Ottawa Valley Little League, in early July. The soccer fields. The usage was down by 22% from 2022, and I'm not quite sure why. Recreation programming. So we offer a lot of programs in the city, you know, so people say there's nothing to do in the city for young ones. Well, young and old alike, I guess. Chair yoga, lending hub, where we lend out a variety of equipment, including snowshoes, kayaks in the summer, different things. So contact the Memorial Center, the staff there, if you're looking for something. Movie night provided 8 free movies throughout the months of July and August. Public skating offered throughout the year, serving all ages. The Rotary Park Splash and Play program, a drop-in program that ran in the months of July and August, and activities included games, crafts, and activities throughout the week. The trivia fundraisers were held at the waterfront in July and August. Of course, Waterfront Live is always a hit, and it's nightly music starting in June and runs till the end of August. Yoga in the park, another success, and there was no rainouts this year. And I attended many of those, and it's attended by hundreds from all over the region. Photography classes were scheduled, but there was a poor enrollment, so that is going to be rescheduled. Nature walks, they hosted nature walks with naturalist Michael Runts. The program was not well attended because of the cost, so I guess that's something we have to look at going forward. Canada Day was spectacular this year in the city, and I think it's just going to get even better and better. Volunteers, Councillor Purcell and Councillor Keel were serving hot dogs and whatnot, and the Ghost Town Criers were there. It was a great day. And we received $12,000 in funding through the Celebrate Canada grant for that. The Jim Sloan Memorial Ball Hockey Tournament. Proceeds went to the Pembroke Boys and Girls Club. Multicultural Festival, I can't say enough about that. It gets bigger and better every year, and it shows our diverse population and all the services that are available through them and for them. Santa Claus Parade, 80 plus floats. I can't say any more. Again, Councillor Keel was one of the judges, and Deputy Mayor and I hosted it on your TV. Always a great, fun night. Even though Deputy Mayor can't dance, he tried to dance to a few of the music parades, floats going by, zing zing. Water and Dirt Festival. Most of it was rained out this year, but however the distance of the race was reduced, so they moved forward. This year, because of staff capacity, we will be funding it, we will be supporting it financially rather than through staff. I think they had a difficult time with staff last year, having enough to do our own work and everything else. Non-recurring capital projects, Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as we've seen earlier tonight. Phase 1 was completed in 2023, and now we're moving forward with Phase 2 and 3. A sunshade installed at the wading pool, Riverside Park shed, park picnic tables, in partnership with the Algonquin College Carpentry Program. The mini putt refresh, as I mentioned, wayfinding directional signage, CCAN storage. The department purchased a CCAN to appropriately and safely store fireworks. Capital projects, bleachers. Phase 3 of the sports field bleachers were purchased. A total of 7 3-tier 15-foot bleachers were received. The final phase of the replacement will take place this year. The Kinsman pool boilers, that was a carryover. PACC compressor 1, PACC rooftop, recreation software, Victoria Hall roof replacement, tennis courts. Work was completed in the second quarter and was coordinated in the spring to ensure the work was completed. And that is our busy Parks and Recreation. The next committee I'd like to report is tourism. Major initiatives undertaken, and I want to thank Elijah McEwen for preparing this report for me. The tourism department developed and distributed comprehensive city guides to major hotels and online platforms, and they'll continue this through this coming year. These guides were presented to council. You all had a chance to look at them, and it basically has everything, including where to eat, where to shop, things to do, things for kids, everything they can do in the city of Pembroke. It was produced and disseminated monthly Explore Pembroke posters, they were distributed, rack cards, social media content to highlight local events and activities. And also the Z-card map that we also distribute was revised and updated. Redistributed guides during the Silver Stick and Fiddlefest weekends to hotels, key tourist areas, and online platforms. They also spearheaded the revitalization and relaunch of Festival Hall at L'Equinox in collaboration with CEPEO. And notable achievements, they hosted diverse events, including the Ontario Winter Games, Pembroke Multicultural Festival, Pembroke Community Expo, Water and Dirt Festival, Santa Claus Parade, and Canada Day celebrations. We also received the Upper Ottawa Valley Chamber of Commerce's Award for Excellence in Tourism and Recreation for the Pembroke Multicultural Festival. And a website traffic analysis revealed visits from 130 countries last year, and notably with 6 countries, USA, Germany, India, UK, China, and Ireland, surpassing 100 users each. Notably, 3,464 users accessed our website from the United States. And going through the statistics today on my own, I noticed that most of the hits are for our recreational facilities and our accommodations. So people are looking to come to Pembroke for the Multicultural Festival or to take their kids swimming or to see Silver Stick. So it's very evident when you look at the numbers and the amount of hits that our website is getting, that that is what they're looking for. They were among the top 10 hits, reasons people are coming to our website. All the rest were other things, city services, a few people were looking up Councillor Keel's phone number, things like that. So I just wanted to let everybody know that our recreation and our events, people are really interested and want to come to the city and spend some time. So that's very positive. And I basically just want to commend that whole department, and should be proud of the city we live in. Thank you very much.
Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder if the mayor would allow me just to remain seated, just so it allows me to operate my computer a little bit more efficiently, to save time. Thank you so much. So I have 7 committee reports. Sorry, not reports. I do sit on 7 committees, but Parks and Recreation Standing Committee, I'm also the vice chair with Pat. So I'd like to report the Pembroke Public Library. As the property chair, I'll be providing the summary of the 2023 highlights on behalf of Deputy Mayor, who is the current library board chair. So we'll get into that one. So some great news in terms of the Pembroke Library. In terms of materials borrowed, about 79,000 items borrowed last year with 28,000 questions answered. 3 awards were presented to the Pembroke Library. The first was the 2023 Excellence in Tourism and Recreation Award for the Pembroke Multicultural Festival. The second was the 2023 Ottawa Valley Tourist Association Event of the Year Award for the 2022 Multicultural Festival. And of course, our young folks for 2023, the CBC Canadian Music Class Challenge and the Pembroke Library Music Program winner. So that was some exciting news there in terms of ensuring that we're getting the appropriate recognition for the Center of Excellence that we have at our Pembroke Library. We developed a strategic plan this past fall, and it was developed reflecting on the library's successes, the challenges, as well as the changing needs of the community. The Pembroke Library in the fall also went through an accreditation process where a member of the Southern Ontario Library Services awarded the Pembroke Library with a 99.4% accreditation audit score, which is really very important. So I think that's a huge accomplishment for the library and the library staff. Just a few little basic, numbers is 30,000 adult books, 32,000 children books, 3,164 instruments and equipment and passes. It goes on and on to digital libraries. We borrowed 13,114 ebooks, 7,000 e-audio books borrowed, 3,736 comic books and magazines borrowed, and 3,200 other digital uses. So our membership, continues to grow. We had 736 new patrons at the library last year. We have about 7,300 registered patrons right now. In terms of social networking, 54,117 website page views, 250,000 Facebook page views. That's incredible. Some little bit more loan information in terms of accessibility services. We did 821 home deliveries. You don't hear too much about that. 3,962 items delivered. 4,114 early literacy participants. In terms of children's programs, 5,057 in-house participants. Digital literacy, 2,141 Wi-Fi connections. And I can go on, and I don't want to bore everybody in terms of these numbers, but these reports will be made available on the website. So, kudos to the library, and of course, the great success that they had in terms of the Multicultural Festival needs to be applauded, and I think that's one festival that we need to continue to fund going forward, as it's a huge, it's a huge opportunity for us in terms of multiculturalism. And I think we even had 5,000 participants, 40 sponsors, 18 craft vendors, 15 food vendors with 20 plus performances. So, and we continue to acquire, acquisitions in terms of adult books, children's books, talking books, AV items, as well as magazines. And just as to top it off, in terms of the estimated service value, in terms of our collection, is about $3.5 million. So again, my extreme thanks goes out to the library CEO, and the library staff for the great work they've done, and the board members, and as well as the volunteers and the Friends of the Library. So good news there. I'll try and be a little bit more expedient. Next, I have the Accessibility Advisory Committee. So I am the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. I know that we just brought this report just back in December. So again, in 2023, we identified some accessibility barriers that were addressed. We put up a new scoreboard added to the ball diamond at Riverside Park. We added translucent white LED digits designed specifically with individuals with visual impairment. 5 new accessible picnic tables added to the Pembroke waterfront. New sports field bleachers that are lower tiered to allow easy egress was purchased. A new website was launched in April 2022 that meets the requirements and the compliance requirements for accessibility, and we also continually monitor the website for web content compliance using an accessibility software checker. Accessibility also added a list of report of concern section to the city's website. Again, training continues with new staff, board members, and volunteers. We've made a number of improvements in terms of sidewalks, AODA compliance in terms of high traffic areas. So new accessible sidewalks were constructed, in numerous locations, everything from, I think it was about 6 or 7 different locations. New pedestrian signals and auditory and tactile components for sensor buttons each year to replace the upgraded the old signals. We also did pedestrian crossings located at James Street and Pembroke Street West intersections. Again, we're in the process of developing the master parks and recreation plan that will include the accessibility component. So there's input into that. It goes on and on and on, and I think we continue to move things forward in a positive way, allowing those individuals that do have accessibility concerns and issues that we're addressing to make sure that our city is barrier-free as best as possible. So we continue to work forward on that as a committee, and I congratulate the committee, and I also just wanted to say a huge shout out to our clerk, Heidi Barton, for her support in terms of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Without her, I think we'd be definitely struggling, so I appreciate your support, Heidi. The next thing we have is the County Health Committee. So that's in terms of long care and paramedic services. It's getting late. I'm starting to stutter my words even more than what I normally do. Accreditation with exemplary standing for 4 years for each of Miramichi Lodge and Bonnechere Manor. Recruitment of a second nurse practitioner, so now that there's one nurse practitioner at each one of the homes. We also looked at health human resources recruitment, and it continues to present challenges in long-term care as well as across all the health sector. The good news is that the committee is quite pleased in response to our health human resources challenge that the first international recruitment has been successful, and will soon be employment at the Bonnechere Manor. So that's some really good news there. In terms of paramedic services, We received, the big news last year is the permanent funding in terms of Renfrew County Virtual Triage and Assessment Center. That's a huge support for individuals that require assistance in terms of medical assistance, especially those that do not have family physicians. We initiated a mobile mental health and addiction and homeless health hub, expansion of an additional 24-hour ambulance, so there's another ambulance on the road, and the acquisition and development of a new paramedic base in Eganville. Again, a formal year-end report will be made available from the committee at a later date. So I also sit on the CNL Environmental Stewardship Council, was appointee for the City of Pembroke representative. The committee met 3 times last year. Again, the mandate for this committee is to build working relationships and create opportunities for open dialogue between various stakeholder groups, local communities, and CNL. The committee was presented with information about CNL, their environmental practices, and members were given the opportunity to ask questions and discuss the information presented. In September, Mayor Jerva and I had the pleasure of attending the opening ceremonies of the Science and Collaboration Center. The center houses approximately 450 CNL employees. It's a new 6-story, 9,500 meter squared facility that will serve as the central planning and collaboration space for this company's science and technology programs. It was conducted using mass timber products sourced through Canada. The initiative is sustainable. New facility features modern office spaces, 44 meeting rooms, collaborative flex spaces, a university-style auditorium with a 200-seat style seats, and a welcome library space and rooftop terrace that we were so pleasure to have a drink on. So very good stuff happening with our friends at CNL, and they continue to amaze in terms of the accomplishments and some good things to come. The next is the Pembroke and Area Warming Center. Again, I was the appointed City of Pembroke representative. So acquired council approval of funding of $100,000. Acquired a commitment from the city and the county to lobby the provincial government for future ongoing funding to address the needs of our most vulnerable homeless populations, and I believe that's happening next week at Roma. Successfully lobbied the county, LV, and the town of Petawawa to contribute to the 23-24 operations with total contributions of $220,000 achieved for the 23-24 operations. Committee was stood up. We identified a chair, Warden Peter Emo. We have representation from LV, Petawawa, the county, the Grind, PACT, and other community stakeholders. We were successful in acquiring site approvals from the farmers market, put a construction trailer in place, washroom trailer, hired a dedicated coordinator, 2 security personnel. Furnishings, we supplied it with 30 reclining chairs, installed security cameras. We're currently awaiting the installation of the ramp to ease accessibility concerns. We work with other stakeholders such as Pembroke Regional Hospital that provide laundry services, Renfrew County District Health Unit, the paramedics and police services, just to name a few. And to date, 200 guest stays at the center with 15 females and 22 males, and we have 2 individuals from outside Renfrew County. So when I hear individuals saying, you know, they're being bussed into Pembroke to utilize the services in Pembroke in terms of the warming center, that is not true. These are Renfrew County residents other than 2 from outside Renfrew County. Again, kudos to this council, to the county, our other partners that are supporting this initiative. I think it needs ongoing funding, and I'm looking forward to hearing some good news from your efforts next week in terms of the Roma delegation. The next one is the Renfrew County District Health Unit. I am the governance chair. The Renfrew County District Health Unit is one of the 34 public health units in the province. I just want to give a little background in terms of what they do. It's jointly funded by the province of Ontario and the obligated municipalities in Renfrew County and district, which include the city of Pembroke, the township of South Algonquin, and most of Algonquin Provincial Park. The legislative mandate for the 34 health units is prescribed under the Health Protection and Promotion Act. And the guiding purpose is to provide an organization or provide for the organization and the delivery of public health programs and services for the prevention and the spread of diseases and the promotion and protection of health of people in Ontario, and more so in Renfrew County. Programs include the assessment and surveillance, health monitoring, health promotion, policy development, disease and injury prevention, health protection activities, and those are all really important contributors to the physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being of our residents. I'd like to first call out a big, huge thank you to Ann Akins. She's the former chair, and I'd like to thank her for her service providing leadership she displayed through her term as chair, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you can imagine, this was a huge commitment and a huge lift. I attended the virtual ALPHA, which is the Association of Local Public Health Agencies, for their 2023 Winter Symposium on February the 23rd and 24th of last year. Last year, we were also pleased to announce that we signed a mutual agreeable medical officer of health, an employment contract with Dr. Jason Morgenstern, and that was effective of April 3rd, 2023. Pandemic recovery efforts continue due to the reallocation of services to support the COVID-19 response. Joanne King was recently elected chair, and again, a formal year-end report will be made available from the committee at a later date. So I think I hit them all. I don't think I missed any. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purcell. Councillor Jacquino, are you there?
I am here, Your Worship. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello?
I can. Did you wish to bring forward your report?
I do, in absentia. I hope I'm not tried for not being there or put under the guillotine, Your Worship. Anyway, Your Worship, I do have a couple of reports. I serve on the Planning and Advisory Committee, as well as Councillor Keel, who brings a great deal of expertise to the panel. And many of the things that I'm going to focus on this evening come forward through the through the review of this particular committee that brings it back to council for approval. So, for example, we had a very busy year. In the planning department, there were 11 zoning bylaw amendments, applications, and 6 official plan amendments were brought before council in 2023. I'll just mention a few of the addresses. 794 River Road, formerly the Commonwealth Plywood Building, which will now become a recycling unit for, what are we looking at here? Yes, for electronic equipment. Also at 224 Hink Street, zoning bylaw and official plan amendments. The application to allow for a 20 dwelling unit apartment building. 574 Pembroke Street East and 588 Pembroke Street East, a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for semi-detached dwellings for secondary dwelling unit. 583 River Road, again, a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for a triplex. 1200 Pembroke Street West, zoning for an application to allow for a self-storage facility within the existing shopping mall. Also at 0 Blakely Crescent, a zoning bylaw amendment for an application for a portion of the Burcombe subdivision to proceed. And under item number 2, 15 minor variances and applications and 4 severance applications were heard by the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee in 2023. I'm going to highlight a lot of these, Your Worship, because there's 4 or 5 pages. And again, as Councillor Purcell said, they're available on the city's website. But I think it's important to highlight that we've had growth. There were site plan agreements for certain properties, 1302 Pembroke Street West for a commercial development of property known as Campbell Monuments. Also at 121 Woodcrest Avenue, expansion of neighborhood self-storage facility. 2 Bennett Street, redevelopment of existing metal recycling yard. 1030 Lee Street, County of Renfrew building, which will allow for affordable housing within the community. Also at 1127 Pembroke Street West, the Sisters of St. Joseph's Convent, which has been undergoing some great renovations that will allow for 65 apartment units. and also as well created a new site plan agreement bylaw known as 2023-48 to comply with changes to the Planning Act. 68 zoning compliance letters were received and zoning contravention letters were issued. A lot went on within that particular department. There were some fines slated as well. Under just some other highlights, McGee Street, a portion of city land sold as a lot addition to an abutting 357 McGee Street to allow for construction of a new duplex. So there's been a lot of building going on, Your Worship. Many projects taking place. We've also, we're in our first full year of 5-year agreement with a bylaw that allows a cloud permit to provide an online building permit and review process. This is making hopefully it much easier for contractors to move ahead rather than lining up and sitting at City Hall. They can do a lot of this electronically at present. Building departments. 31 new residential units resulted from building permits in 2023. 1 single detached dwelling unit, 4 semi-detached dwelling units, 10 duplex, triplex units, 4 converted secondary miscellaneous dwelling units, and 12 townhouse dwelling units. 110 new residential units were created in 2022. So this is really something to look at. And if we compare the residential permits from 2000 and, look here, there's a lot of information. In 2023, the residential permits were $11,027,431, as opposed to 2021, where there were only $8,830. Commercial permit values in 2003 were $3,095,813, as opposed to 2021 of $8,830,000. So there's been some substantial growth, even considering the COVID movement. Commercial permit values in 2023 were $3,095,813, as opposed to $2 million. And institutional permit values in 2023 were $26,160,000, as opposed to 2021 of $4,003,187. So if you look at those numbers, there's been, even though it's been quoted, we've had minimal growth. You look at the numbers, there is growth, and everywhere you look in the community, you see their building being repaired, fixed, or sold. What else we got to tell you here, Your Worship? You can look at this again online. We did hire a new chief building official, Paul McLean, in January of 2023, especially with the continuing growth and the extra work that's being happening within the city. This particular person is taxed heavily. So my other reports dwell on the mural committee. It's very short. We all know that Pam Dempsey and her hardworking committee worked diligently with a small budget of $13,000 to repair, maintain, and initiate new mural projects for the future. So she's to be thanked with the committee. As well, I sit on the Brantford County Housing Authority. Recent retiree Laura Lapine has left presence. She was a wonderful individual, very hardworking. And the county has been faced with a number of challenges. And as we looked at our budget figures last night, Your Worship, there was $4,430,000 that's assessed to the county of Brantford. So hopefully they'll, they're going to do something positive with the money, and I know they are. Warden Emo is to be congratulated, along with Jim Pine. I know they're making various presentations in Emo, Roma, and also the FCN to ensure that people within our community are not looked over. There's still a great need for affordable housing, and these are our knights in shining armor when they go to these committees. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jacquinot. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Worship. I have a few reports here tonight. First up, we'll do operations. I thank Mr. Director of Operations, Mr. Brian Lewis, for preparing the report for me. So grant funding applications, several grants funding applications have been submitted and the department is awaiting notification. Work on previously awarded grant funding projects continue, including required reporting. Bylaws, continue to amendment rewriting of bylaws to meet today's standards, policies and procedures, and improving enforcement capabilities where applicable. Planning and development reviews and planning ongoing construction in several subdivisions in the city, including those that border the city, as well as numerous multi-residential developments. Currently working on a transportation master plan study, ongoing works on infrastructure needs study with a 20-year facility plan for water and sewer, ongoing works on water agreement with the town of Petawawa. Microfit solar panels generate a total of 51,862 kilowatt hours energy, which produce a revenue of $22,800. We have a bulk water sales in 2023 of 56,500, and we had septage receiving fees in 2023 of 130,200. Highlights in the capital works and engineering. The fourth of last year's work, fourth phase and final phase of Pembroke Street West, Pembroke Street West Road Rehabilitation Project to improve safety and movement on the roads was completed. The total of 4 phases, including reconstruction of approximately 3 kilometers of road and reconstruction of utility poles and hazards and traveling public emergency, including upgrades to traffic signals to comply with ODA. So hopefully we'll have no construction on Pembroke Street this summer. So that's good news. We can travel across the city uninterrupted. Yay! Phase 2 of Bennett Street and Boundary Road Water Main Project commenced under the ISIP Green Second Intake Program. Phase 2 of 5 phase of Nelson Street project was completed. Replacement of existing water and sanitary storm water sewers, additional continuous sidewalk replacements, ongoing works and construction of 20 the town line force main. Design commenced on Isabella Street catchment and full infrastructure reconstruction, and construction of winter control garage of the operation yard. Quick notes of the roads and fleets. So we replaced a single plow with a slider and spreader, replaced 1 pickup truck, replaced 1 ton service truck. For the water and sewer department, we placed 1 ton pickup dump box for Parks and Rec department. 311 meters of culvert replacement was to improve drainage. In-house roads completed last year were McKay Street, Bell Street, Maple Avenue, Broadview Street, and Mary Street, as well as some sidewalk replacements. Replacements were done on 3rd Ave, Murray Street, Everett Street, and Maple. Under the water distribution and waste collection, 30 water leaks repaired, 3 lead water services were replaced. Replaced 2 fire hydrants, rebuilt 9 fire hydrants, replaced 4 water main valves. 42 water services were twisted on and off. We commissioned the replacement of 2 service replacement mains. Contractor installed on Nelson Street Phase 2 and Bennett Street. 42 inspections were completed for water and sanitary service installations, and in excess of 1,242 infrastructure locates were completed in 2023. So it's a very busy department. Water treatment successful. External surveillance audits on our DWQMS system. 2 OIT operation upgrade licensing classification to Class 1. Staff completed 1,825 treated water hours in sample analysis. More than 359 bacterial samples collected. With 0 adverse results. So we all talk about drinking water. So we had zero adverse results in any of our samples. 795 in-house samples analyzed for Quarry Road, and new filter backwash pump at the main WPP isolation valve was procured. In the wastewater treatment section, we have continuing digester rehabilitation repairs, Phase 3, creating challenges and balancing the facility operations with reduced treatment volume capacity. Replacement of under drain and grid system on escalator screen. Replacement of influent flow meter and controller. Emergency replacement of several large VFD drives. purchase and chain and cross collector components and replacement, purchase new digester recirculation pump, and purchase 12 or more overload and continue replacement program, purchase a large quantity of UV equipment due to system aging and repairs required. So lots going on at the treatment plant. Waste management, we collaborate with the Laurentian Valley and Petawawa in the blue box transition to opt out for the new blue box collection system. Planning for a revised waste collection contract and garbage and organic service in March 2025. Blue box transition scheduled for March 31st, 2025. Approximately 7,300 metric tons of waste collected from the city, with 1,200 metric tons being diverted from landfill for recycling, and over 1,500 metric tons of organic leaf yard waste diverted from landfill to compost. And under traffic management, we did upgrades to several traffic signals to ODA compliant, development of speed and traffic data collection into various locations across the city, road network audits in various locations, and replacement of repairs and street lighting in various locations. I'd like to thank Mr. Lewis. It's a very thorough report, as I had to skip many, as he likes to be very thorough. So I'm going to sit for these couple ones as it's on my computer. So I'm also on the board of the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. So the final budget audit report's not quite complete, but the projected $60,000 surplus on the board. The board approved 2024 budget with the principal of their November meeting and includes capital projects totaling $975,000, mostly related to works on the management of on-site leachate. Tipping fees, 2024 tipping fees include a slight increase from 2023 rates. Partner municipalities recycling increased from $50 a ton to $53 a ton. Landfill increased from $100 a ton to $105 a ton. And the non-partner municipal tipping fees are also increased and continue to reflect the fact that the center is not accepting landfill waste from non-partner municipalities. Landfill operations and leachate treatment facility, once fully approved, phase 2 of the landfill expansion will provide the center with additional 13 years of life and capacity at our current landfill. A quick side note, that means we are reaching our capacity in our current landfill. So in the next few years, we're going to have to look seriously at what we're going to do in the future. So that could be the expansion of the current landfill, or working with all the municipalities and the county to produce a new landfill in the future. So we still have some time yet, so it's not a critical stage, but it is coming on the horizon. First step process to expand the current water interceptor trench. This work will be scheduled for 2024. That work's going to be $250,000. And then the center will be doing its major leachate treatment upgrade in 2025 with a cost of around $3 million. So that captures all leachate coming off the landfill, and it's treated before the water is released back into the surrounding wetland areas. Tonnage from 2023 saw the center a 3.5 decrease in vehicles over the scales compared to 2022. There's a 2.5 decrease in landfill tonnage compared to 2022. Overall recycling tonnage decreased by 2%. And recycling markets were generally stable in 2022, with the biggest changes of mixed fiber in the beginning of 2023. The center was paying $17 a ton to market this material in December of 2023, and the center was receiving now the center is receiving $82 a ton. So it used to cost us money to send out recycling, and now we're actually making money. So that's good notes on the center, or on the markets being recovered. Strategy for the waste-free Ontario municipalities and the province continue to move forward with the transition from extended producer responsibility program for recycling. The City of Pembroke is expected to begin transition in March 2025, which coincides with the end of the current curbside collection contract. At their September meeting, the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center Board approved the execution of a lease agreement with Interna Environmental, as they will be, as well as a bill of sale agreement for the purchase of the recycling process equipment from the center. Lease agreement will start December 2024, with Interna will take over the recycling facility operation of the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. And news about the general manager. Lori Benjamin was the successful candidate for the general manager position at the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. She replaces a long-standing general manager, Sue McCrae, who retired in December. Lori has been employed with the center since November 2001 and has held various positions, including equipment operator, administrative assistant, acting senior financial officer, and most recently diversion and environmental compliance supervisor. So I will say the center is in good hands, and the captain of the ship will steer us in the right direction over the coming years. I have one final report about the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery, the Ottawa River Power Corporation. So this is so each year the OEB ranks the performance of utilities in Ontario. In 2023, the Ottawa River Power Corporation achieved Cohort 1 status, placing ORPC amongst the top 15 most efficient distributors in the province. So that's good. Customer savings on global adjustment. ORPC achieved a successful exemption from global adjustment charges in its supply for energy from the Waltham hydroelectric generating station. So with that, some background, the changes apply to energy production in Ontario. Some of the ORPC power supply comes from Quebec. ORPC worked on various government regulatory stakeholders for the Quebec supply to be exempted from these charges. This exemption will result in considerable savings for customers in the coming years. So our low rates for customers. Recent data shows Ottawa Power residents' electricity rates are more affordable than 91% of other local distribution companies in Ontario. Similarly, Ottawa River Power rates for small and medium-sized businesses are lower than 72% of other providers in the province. So we always known that our rates are competitive and well, so we just reaffirm the fact that we're not selling our utility is the right decision to have it managed locally. Pembroke Grid Assessment. Pembroke Services Temporary Underwent Reliability Assessment in 2023, identifying station and feeder loading, improving future planning and optimization of the system. Infrared scanning of pole testing. Final phases of pole testing program infrared scanning was conducted to prioritize areas of concern in Pembroke and other service territories. Various renewal projects were carried out to replace assets exhibiting signs of advanced wear, with more work planned in 2024. Under community precipitation, October 2023, ORPC staff participated in the RBC Future Launch World of Choice event, promoting the power line technician trade to local students, as well as attending events at Algonquin College. Projects, Highway 148 pole replacement project involves significant rebuilding of pole and line on the 148 to the city limits, renewing important assets, carrying part of the redundant 44 kV system to the city. A removal of stub poles in Pembroke. Some still remain from Bell Canada that has removed their assets before ORPC can remove the poles entirely. ORPC successfully completed its 2022 ESA audit and full compliance with Electrical Safety Authority Regulation 2204, demonstrating a strong commitment to public safety and awareness. And those are my reports for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. Worship, it's been a long night, and my birthday is this Thursday, January 18th. So in the interest of getting my beauty sleep, I'll report on the 6 reports at the next council meeting. But in all seriousness, I'll bring forth the 6 reports at the next council meeting.
Thank you. And so from my position, 2023 was our inaugural year of council. We commenced the year developing a strategic plan, setting goals for council to achieve over the 4-year term. Equally as important was the development to the strategic plan was council receiving some great training, some online, some in person, receiving training from our staff, the integrity commissioner, as well as consultants in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Council was availed the opportunity to engage in online and in-person training in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which was very important. It continues to be important. In our first year, we've accomplished a great deal in many areas to entice people to live, work, invest, and play in the beautiful city of Pembroke. This is evident from the reports received tonight from all of you. These reports are very important so that the public has an appreciation of the great work being accomplished by all of you on their behalf. Sometimes it's easy for individuals to get the impression from watching our YouTube and so forth that this is the grand sum total of what it is that we do, but clearly there's so much more. I have and will continue to work together with with staff, to work with the MP, the MPP, other mayors, councils, ministers, and their staff to build relationships and work together on behalf of our ratepayers. We have and will continue to collaborate with the County of Renfrew on many great initiatives, such as the warming center that was spoken of earlier, as well as the Highway 17 twinning initiative. We welcome all of these opportunities to work with everyone. In respect to the Police Services Board, we've had yet another successful year. The board has addressed many inquiries and provided responses to council where appropriate. The board continues to advance various programs within its mandate, such as the Property Identification Program, Lock It or Lose It, and different programs to attempt to reduce victimization, as well as working with other groups such as the Community Watch Program. The board has assisted and will provide guidance to city staff regarding various topics, including the camera initiative that has been advanced by the City of Pembroke Council due to its foresight. The PSB has and will continue to achieve its mandate to ensure adequate and effective policing, which is the ultimate indication of its mandate as a police services board. In 2023, we developed, as a result of more meetings, to develop the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, and I'm pleased that this council not only received it, accepted it, and now it is on our website, but that doesn't mean that the work is over. There's still much more to accomplish. Additionally, with the passage of the new legislation, the board will now engage with new education requirements and enter a new era of board governance, with the legislation coming forward in April 2024. I would be remiss if I did not recognize the passing of board member Malcolm Montgomery, who was one of the provincial appointment members. His sage advice and guidance will be greatly missed. The inspector has in the past and will continue to attend council meetings during the course of the year and will be coming, I believe, February 6th to present a report. We will be receiving a report tomorrow at the PSB meeting, and then he will come here. On behalf of council, I chair have been appointed and chair the Handy Bus Board. The Handy Bus is a not-for-profit corporation providing transportation to individuals with intellectual and physical disabilities, including seniors in our community. The age group ranges from the 20s to early 90s. The service has supplied transportation to 652 individuals in wheelchairs, both manual and electric, and 5,524 individuals who traveled using canes, walkers, or other mobility assistance devices. There was an increase year over year of 37% usage in terms of the Handy Bus, traveling over 40,000 kilometers in 2023, providing door-to-door service. It's not just for medical appointments, it's for shopping, counseling, services, pet, companion, animal services, hairdressing, you name it. It's door-to-door service for these individuals to get them out to where they need to go. And I would be remiss if I did not put in a plug for the Polar Bear Dip, which is February 4th at 11, provided that we have enough ice, and we're soon to find that out. And it raises much needed money, and it is our signature event. Wish to conclude by thanking a number of people for their hard work and dedication throughout 2023. To start, I want to thank staff of the City of Pembroke. You work tirelessly for the residences, businesses, and organizations of the city. Your immeasurable worth and dedication is greatly appreciated, and for that I cannot thank you enough. For the many representatives that sit on the various boards and committees that we spoke of this evening, and there's many of them, you are to be commended as well. Your hard work does not go unnoticed, and on behalf of council, I want to thank all of you as well. And to my fellow council members, thank you for your dedication to the ratepayers of the City of Pembroke. Your reports are clearly illustrative of all of the hard work that you do, and you do it, I have no doubt, because you love the ratepayers, you love the beautiful City of Pembroke. And so for that, I thank all of you, because it's not one individual that makes this happen. It's all of us working together as a team. So thank you very much for all of your reports, and certainly there's councillor updates, and so always look forward to reports because not one of us can be everywhere, and so while we can attend different meetings, we can't be everywhere, and that's why there is a number of us to do what we need to do on behalf of all of the ratepayers. So with that, Deputy Mayor, I understand that you have confirming bylaw.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer, that bylaw 02-2024 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of January 16th, 2024 be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Plummer, the bylaw 02-2024 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of January 16, 2024 be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn. I have Councillor Fernie and Councillor Keel. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.